The note sat on my kitchen counter like a slap in the face. Happy birthday, Freya. We're all at the Golden Lotus Spa for the day. Didn't think you'd want to join since you're always so busy with work. Love, Mom. I stared at the hastily scrawled message, my coffee going cold beside me. Of course they'd gone without me. On my birthday. To the most exclusive spa in the city. The one I'd been dropping hints about visiting for months. My name is Freya, and at 32, I'm the family disappointment, at least according to my mother's subtle jabs and my brother's constant reminders of his success. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil. Hey sis, Ashton's voice dripped with his usual smugness. Mom said she left you a note. We're having the most amazing time. You should see this place. The massage alone costs more than you probably make in a week. I gripped the phone tighter. Thanks for thinking of me. Oh, come on, don't be like that. You're always working anyway. Hey, did I tell you about my new investment? Just closed a deal that'll net me another $1 million by summer. That's great, Ash. Really great. I glanced at my laptop, where a very different kind of investment plan sat open in a hidden folder. Listen, I should go. My boss is calling. Still at that dead-end job? You know, if you just let me help. Goodbye, Ash. I hung up and immediately dialed another number. Marissa? Yeah, it's happening. Today. Oh my God, finally. My best friend's excitement crackled through the speaker. Meet you at our spot in 20? The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Marissa waved from our usual corner booth, 2 lattes already waiting. Happy birthday, by the way, she said, sliding an envelope across the table, though I'm guessing it hasn't been very happy so far. I told her about the note and Ashton's call. Your family is literally the worst, she said, shaking her head. But are you sure you want to do this? It's a huge risk. I pulled out my laptop and opened the folders I'd been compiling for the past year. Look at these numbers. The Golden Lotus is hemorrhaging money. Lauren's been keeping me updated on everything. Still can't believe the owner's been mentoring you all this time. Because, unlike my family, Lauren actually saw potential in me. I took a sip of my latte. She's retiring. Wants to sell to someone who'll maintain the spa's reputation. The asking price is steep, but with my savings and the investors Lauren connected me with. And your family has no idea you've been studying spa management? I smiled. They think I'm still just a secretary. Mom actually told me last week that at least it's honest work. Meanwhile, I've been taking night classes, working with Lauren, learning everything about the business. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. Having the most wonderful time. Wish you could appreciate these things like we do. Maybe next year. Marissa read the text over my shoulder and groaned. They're literally taunting you now. Not for long. I opened my email and clicked send on a message I'd drafted weeks ago. I just confirmed my meeting with the bank this afternoon. Wait, today? I thought, I'm done waiting. I closed my laptop with a snap. They're all at the spa right now, celebrating without me? Perfect. Let them enjoy it. Because soon enough, they'll be celebrating in my spa. Marissa leaned back, studying me. You know there's no going back once you do this, right? Your family. My family needs to learn that I'm more than just Ashton's disappointing little sister. I stood up, gathering my things. I should get going. The bank meeting's at 2, and then I'm meeting Lauren to finalize everything. Freya? Marissa caught my arm as I turned to leave. Just be careful, okay? Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't just about revenge. But even as I said it, I could feel the satisfaction building in my chest, imagining their faces when they realize the truth. It's about finally showing them who I really am. As I walked to my car, another text came through. A photo from Ashton of him and our parents lounging in plush robes, champagne glasses in hand. Living the life. Maybe someday you'll learn how to succeed like your big bro. I saved the photo. Soon it would be a reminder of the last time they underestimated me. Instead of heading to work, I turned toward the bank. Today wasn't just my birthday. It was the day I stopped being the family disappointment and became their worst nightmare. Lauren was already waiting in her office when I arrived at the Golden Lotus Spa. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see my family still lounging by the infinity pool, completely oblivious. Ready to make history? Lauren smiled, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. The bank approved everything, I said, pulling out the paperwork. Full financing, just like we planned. I never doubted you. She leaned forward, her expression turning serious. But Freya, there's something you need to know. The spa's finances are worse than we initially thought. My stomach dropped. How much worse? We're looking at about 30% more debt than the books showed. She slid a folder across the desk. The previous manager was creative with the accounting. I flipped through the documents, my hands trembling slightly. This could sink us before we even start. It could, Lauren agreed. Or it could be exactly the opportunity we need. The asking price just got a lot more negotiable. A knock at the door interrupted us. Ms. Lauren, your 3 o'clock massage clients are here. Through the glass wall, I saw my mother and father walking past, wrapped in plush robes. Duck! Lauren hissed, but I was already sliding under her desk. My mother's voice drifted through the door. Lauren, darling, what a wonderful day we're having. Susan, lovely to see you again. Lauren's voice was perfectly professional. I'll walk you to your treatment rooms. I held my breath until their footsteps faded. When I emerged, Lauren was back, shaking her head. This is insane, I muttered. I'm hiding from my own parents like a teenager. Speaking of your parents, Lauren said, they've been booking premium packages every month. Your brother, too. They're some of our biggest spenders. Of course they are. Ashton probably expenses it all to his company anyway. I grabbed my phone as it buzzed. Another text from him. Just booked the executive suite for next month, too. You should see these prices, sis. Oh, wait. Maybe don't look. Wouldn't want to depress you. Lauren read the text over my shoulder and whistled. Your brother's quite a piece of work. You have no idea. I showed her the string of messages from throughout the day. They've been like this for years. Every success, every luxury, thrown in my face like proof of my failure. Well, Lauren said, pulling out another folder, let's talk about turning those luxuries into your success. I've drafted a complete renovation plan. We'll need it to turn this place around. For the next hour, we pored over blueprints and budgets. Lauren had taught me everything about spa management over the past year, but seeing the full scope of what we were about to undertake was daunting. The staff might be the biggest challenge, Lauren warned. Many of them have been here for years. They're loyal, but resistant to change. I've been studying them for months, I said. Maria in accounting is brilliant but underutilized. James at the front desk has amazing ideas for modernizing our booking system. And Anna in marketing? She's wasted on basic social media posts. Lauren's eyebrows shot up. You've really done your homework. I had to. This isn't just about getting back at my family. I want to make this place even better than it already is. My phone buzzed again. A message from Marissa. How's it going? Did you sign yet? Before I could respond, voices approached Lauren's office. Through the glass, I saw Ashton walking with one of the massage therapists, gesturing grandly. And really, he was saying loudly enough for us to hear, anyone who can't afford this kind of treatment simply isn't trying hard enough. Look at my sister, always complaining about money, but she won't take my advice about investments. The massage therapist nodded politely, clearly uncomfortable. I turned to Lauren. How soon can we close this deal? She smiled, pulling out a final set of documents. Right now, if you're ready. I've had these prepared for weeks. My hands shook as I took the pen. Outside, I could hear Ashton still holding court, my parents' laughter joining his. Just think, Lauren said softly. In about 10 minutes, Every treatment they're enjoying will be putting money in your pocket instead of draining theirs. I signed my name with a flourish. When do you want to tell the staff? I've called an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning. Your family's booked until 5. Plenty of time for you to get out of here without them seeing you. As I gathered my things, another text came through from my mother. Just booked our next family spa day. Well, family minus you, of course. But you understand, this place is for people who appreciate the finer things. I showed Lauren the message, and she laughed. Oh, they have no idea what's coming, do they? No, I said, tucking the signed ownership papers into my bag. But they're about to find out. The staff meeting was set for 8 a.m., but I arrived at 6:30, pacing the empty lobby of what was now my spa. My spa. The words still felt surreal. You look like you're about to throw up, Marissa said, appearing with 2 coffee cups. Here, you'll need this. What if they hate me? What if they all quit? I grabbed the coffee desperately. What if... Stop! Marissa grabbed my shoulders. You've been preparing for this for a year. Lauren believes in you. I believe in you. Now you just need to make them believe in you. The first employees started arriving at 7:45. I recognized each face from my months of observation. Maria from accounting, her glasses slightly askew. James from the front desk, already checking his tablet. Anna from marketing, creative energy practically radiating off her. At 8 a.m. sharp, Lauren called everyone to attention. Thank you all for coming in early, she began. As you know, I'm retiring. What you don't know is that I've found the perfect person to take over. I stepped forward, my heart hammering. The room erupted in whispers. Wait, Maria said. Aren't you that regular guest sister? The one they're always talking about? Yes, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I'm Freya. And I know what you're thinking, that I'm just some rich family member who bought their way in. But I've been studying this industry for the past year, learning everything about this spa, about all of you. I turned to Maria. You created an entirely new accounting system that corporate ignored. To James, your booking app proposal would revolutionize our scheduling. To Anna, and your marketing ideas are exactly what we need to attract younger clients. The whispers turned to interested murmurs. I have plans, I continued, to make this place even better. But I need your help, your ideas, your expertise. What about our jobs? Someone called out. Everyone keeps their position, I assured them, with potential for advancement based on merit, not seniority. And the first order of business is a complete review of salaries and benefits. That got their attention. For the next hour, we discussed changes, improvements, fears, and hopes. By the end, even the most skeptical employees were contributing ideas. Then my phone buzzed. Ashton. Hey sis, guess what? Just booked the whole family for a spa day next week. Even got you an appointment. Time to stop being such a workaholic. My hands shook as I showed Lauren the message. Perfect timing, she said. The ownership transfer will be public record by then. Freya? It was Anna from marketing. I couldn't help but notice. Your family doesn't know about this, do they? No, I admitted. They don't. Then I have an idea. She pulled out her tablet, eyes sparkling. What if we... But before she could finish, Maria burst into the room, face pale. We have a problem, she said. A big one. I was reviewing the accounts and there's a tax lien on the property. A hidden one. If we don't pay it within 48 hours, we could lose everything. The room went silent. How much? I asked. Maria named a figure that made my knees weak. That's more than all my liquid assets combined, I whispered. I might have a solution, James spoke up. But you're not going to like it. Try me. Your brother. He's always bragging about his investment strategies, right? What if we could borrow them? What do you mean? James smiled. Every time he's here, he talks loudly on his phone about his trades. I've been noting them down out of curiosity. He's got a pattern. If we follow it. I started. Brilliant, Marissa finished. Use his own strategy against him. It's perfect. But risky, Lauren warned. If it doesn't work, we lose everything anyway, I said. James, show me what you've got. For the next hour, we huddled over James's notes, mapping out Ashton's investment patterns. It was aggressive, but if it worked. I can't believe I'm doing this, I muttered, making the final trade on my phone. Believe it, Marissa said. And while we wait, let's hear Anna's marketing idea. Something tells me it's going to be good. Anna grinned, pulling up a mock-up on her tablet. Picture this. Next week, when your family arrives, they'll see something very special on all our digital displays. As she explained her plan, I felt a wild mix of terror and excitement. In 48 hours, I'd either lose everything or secure my revenge in the most spectacular way possible. My phone buzzed again, a family group text from my mother. Next week will be amazing. Full day of pampering at our favorite place. Freya, do try to make it this time. It's not healthy to always be working. I looked around at my new team, all of them now invested in my success, all of them ready to help prove my family wrong. Oh, don't worry, Mom, I muttered. I wouldn't miss this for the world. The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. I barely slept, constantly checking the investment tracking app on my phone. Following Ashton's pattern was like riding a roller coaster blindfolded. Up another 12%, Marissa announced, watching the numbers climb. We were camped out in Lauren's, now my office, surrounded by empty coffee cups and half-eaten takeout. Not enough, Maria said, tapping her calculator. We need at least 20% more to cover the tax lien. My phone rang. Ashton. Should I answer it? I asked the room. Put it on speaker, Lauren suggested. Hey, big brother, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Freya, you'll never believe what just happened. Remember that tech stock I was telling you about? Up 40% today. This is why you should listen to your successful big brother more often. I muted the phone and looked at James. Is that the same stock we... He nodded, grinning. I unmuted. That's amazing, Ash. Any other hot tips? Well... He lowered his voice conspiratorially. I'm moving heavy into biotech tomorrow morning, but that's probably too rich for your blood. Hey, you're still coming to the spa day next week, right? Mom's worried you're becoming a hermit. Oh, I'll be there, I said. Wouldn't miss it for anything. After hanging up, I turned to James. How much do we have in reserve? Enough to follow his biotech play, he said. But it's risky. If it fails... Do it, I decided. He's never wrong about these things. His ego wouldn't allow it. The next morning, I walked into the spa to find Anna waiting excitedly by the front desk. You have to see this, she said, pulling me to the new digital display wall we'd installed. I worked all night on the reveal campaign. The screens cycled through elegant images of the spa's services, but every few slides, my face appeared. Professional, confident, with the title Owner and CEO beneath it. These will go live the moment your family walks in next week, Anna explained. Every screen in the building will change simultaneously. It's perfect, I breathed. But first we have to survive the next 24 hours. Right on cue, Maria burst out of the accounting office. The biotech stocks, they're climbing. We crowded around her computer, watching the numbers tick up. 10%. 15. 20. Come on, I whispered. Just a little more. My phone buzzed. Another group text from my mother. Just bought new spa robes for everyone for next week. Well, everyone but Freya, since she probably won't come anyway. But they're monogrammed. Oh, I hope they kept the receipt, Marissa muttered. Suddenly, James let out a whoop. 30%. We did it. We actually did it. Maria quickly ran the numbers. With this return, we can cover the tax lien and still have operating capital left over. Lauren squeezed my shoulder. I knew you could do it. Now, should we call the tax office, or would you like to deliver the check in person? In person, I said. I want to see their faces when they have to remove that lien. 2 hours later, I walked out of the tax office with official documentation that the Golden Lotus Spa was fully clear of all encumbrances. My phone buzzed again. Ashton. Baby sis, that biotech stock just cashed out for a 60% gain. This is why I'm the financial genius in the family. Speaking of which, I just booked an extra-long massage for next week. You should see what these treatments cost. I smiled, thinking about where his money would soon be going. That sounds wonderful, Ash. I'm definitely coming this time. Really? He sounded genuinely surprised. Well, finally ready to live a little. Don't worry about the cost. I know it's probably way over your budget. I'll cover it this once. That's so generous of you, I said, gritting my teeth. Hey, quick question. What time is everyone arriving next week? 10 a.m. sharp. Mom's insisting we all get there early to make a full day of it. She's even making Dad wear the new monogrammed robe. Perfect. Just as Anna had planned. Back at the spa, the staff was gathered for a celebration. Lauren had brought champagne, and Maria was distributing copies of the cleared tax documents. A toast, Lauren announced, to our new owner, who just pulled off the impossible. And, Anna added with a wicked grin, to next week's show. I've finished programming all the displays. The moment they walk in, she demonstrated the sequence on her tablet. The entire staff burst into applause. Are you ready for this? Marissa asked quietly. Once it happens, there's no going back. I thought about all the dismissive texts, the condescending comments, the years of being treated like a failure. I'm ready, I said. 1 week from now, everything changes. My phone buzzed one final time. A photo from my mother of the new spa robes, monogrammed with everyone's names but mine. Perfect, I murmured, showing the picture to Lauren. They have no idea they're about to be wearing robes with their least favorite family member's logo on them. The morning of the reveal, I arrived at the spa at 7 a.m., my stomach in knots. The staff was already busy preparing, an excited energy buzzing through the building. Everything's ready, Anna reported, checking her tablet. All displays are programmed, at exactly 10 a.m. when they walk in. Show me one more time, I said. She pulled up the sequence, elegant spa footage transitioning smoothly into my professional headshots, the new logo, and finally, the announcement of new ownership. It was subtle but unmistakable. Marketing materials are all updated too, she added, pointing to the stack of new brochures at the front desk. Your signature is now on everything. Maria appeared with a stack of papers. First month's financials under your ownership. We're already showing a 15% increase in bookings. Thanks to James's new booking system, I said, watching him demonstrate the app to a group of employees. My phone buzzed. Ashton. On our way. Mom's so excited about those new robes. She had them specially made by some fancy designer. Can't wait for you to see what real luxury looks like. Lauren appeared at my elbow. Are you sure you don't want to be in the lobby when they arrive? No, I said. I want to watch from my office. Let them process it first. Speaking of processing, Marissa said, walking in with coffee and breakfast, I brought fuel. You haven't eaten since yesterday. I can't eat. I feel like I'm about to jump off a cliff. More like you're about to push them off one, she replied with a grin. At 9:45, the staff gathered for final preparations. I'd given everyone specific instructions. Treat my family exactly as usual. Say nothing about the ownership change unless directly asked. They're here, James called from the front desk at 9:55. Just pulled into the parking lot. I hurried to my office, Marissa and Lauren following. Through the one-way glass, we had a perfect view of the lobby. Right on time, I muttered as my family walked through the doors at exactly 10 a.m. My mother led the way, carrying garment bags with the designer robes. My father followed, already looking bored. And Ashton, phone in hand, probably tweeting about his luxurious lifestyle. 3, 2, 1, Anna whispered into her headset. The displays flickered. My family paused mid-stride. "What's this?" my mother asked, staring at my face on the largest screen. Ashton laughed. "Must be some kind of mistake. There's no way." The announcement text appeared beneath my image. "Welcome to the new Golden Lotus Spa, under the ownership of Freya." My mother dropped the garment bags. "This is a joke. It has to be." James stepped forward smoothly. "Good morning. Welcome to the Golden Lotus Spa. Your new robes will be provided in your lockers, all featuring our updated logo." "Updated logo?" my father asked, speaking for the first time. "Yes, sir. All of our branding was refreshed last week under the new ownership." Ashton grabbed a brochure from the front desk, his face turning pale as he saw my signature at the bottom. "This is impossible," he sputtered. "She doesn't have this kind of money. She can't even afford a basic membership here." "Actually, sir," Maria said, appearing with a folder, "all of your previous payments have been transferred to the new ownership account. Would you like to review the documentation?" My mother sank into a lobby chair. "All this time, when you said you were working." "She's in her office," I heard James tell them. "Would you like me to announce you?" Through the glass, I watched my brother's face turn from shock to anger. "Her office? You mean Lauren's office?" "No, sir. Ms. Lauren retired last week. Ms. Freya's office." My phone buzzed one final time, a family group text from my mother. "Freya, if you're really here, we need to talk. Now." I looked at Marissa and Lauren. "Ready?" "Are you?" Marissa asked. I straightened my designer suit, the first thing I'd bought after the ownership transfer, and checked my reflection. Gone was the timid sister they'd always dismissed. In her place stood someone they'd have to reckon with. "Send them up," I told James through the intercom. I heard their footsteps approaching, saw their shadows through the frosted glass door. "Remember," Lauren whispered, "you earned this. Every bit of it." The door handle turned. I sat behind my desk, forcing myself to remain calm as my family filed in. Their faces were a mix of shock, anger, and, most satisfyingly, fear. "Hello, family," I said, gesturing to the chairs in front of my desk. "Welcome to my spa. Shall we talk about those new robes you brought? I'm afraid they don't quite match our updated branding." The look on their faces made every second of the past year worth it. "How dare you?" My mother's voice trembled with rage. "How dare you go behind our backs like this?" "Behind your backs?" I leaned forward. "Like you went behind mine on my birthday?" "That was different," Ashton snapped. "We were celebrating. You were working, like always." "I was working," I agreed, "on buying this place. Every time you came here bragging about your investments, I was learning. Every time you mocked my dead-end job, I was planning." "Planning to deceive us," my mother said. "No, planning to succeed. There's a difference." I pulled out the folder of financial reports. "The spa's profits are up 15% since I took over. Bookings have increased. Staff morale is higher than ever." "Impossible," Ashton scoffed. "You don't know the first thing about running a business." "Actually," Lauren stepped forward, "Freya has been studying under me for the past year. She knows this business inside and out. You," my mother pointed an accusing finger, "you helped her with this betrayal?" "I helped her achieve her potential," Lauren corrected. "Something her family should have done." My father, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. "The money. Where did you get the money for this? Would you believe me if I said I learned from the best?" I smiled at Ashton. "Your investment strategies are quite effective when properly documented. Thanks for all those loud phone calls in the lobby." Ashton's face went from red to purple. "You spied on my trades?" "I learned from my successful big brother," I mimicked his condescending tone. "Isn't that what you always wanted?" "This is ridiculous." My mother stood up. "We're leaving, and we're never coming back to this place. That's your choice." I said calmly. But you should know. There isn't another spa of this caliber within 100 miles. And your memberships here are quite extensive. Non-refundable too. You wouldn't dare cancel them, Ashton threatened. Cancel them? Of course not. You're valued customers. I pressed the intercom. James, please show my family to their scheduled treatments. The usual rooms. Right away, Miss Freya. And, I added, please make sure they receive their new robes. The ones with the updated logo. My mother's face tightened. Those designer robes cost a fortune. And they're lovely, I'm sure. But they don't meet our branding requirements. Don't worry. We'll store them safely while you enjoy our new signature robes, with my name on them. This isn't over, Ashton growled, standing up. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. Oh, and Ash? Those biotech stocks you were so proud of? I made the same trades. Thanks for the tip. It really helped cover the tax lien. He froze. You learned from the best? I finished. That's what family's for, right? James appeared at the door. Your treatments are ready. My mother looked at the new robes James was carrying, each emblazoned with my logo. We don't have to stay. Of course not, I said. But you've already paid. And isn't that what you always taught me? Never waste money? They filed out slowly, defeated but seething. Only my father lingered. You planned this whole thing, he said quietly. All of it. I learned from watching you all, I replied. How to be ruthless, how to put business first, how to treat family. Something flickered in his eyes. Was it respect? Regret? But before he could speak, my mother called him from the hallway. After they left, Marissa burst out laughing. That was amazing! Did you see their faces when they saw the new robes? It's not over, Lauren warned. They'll try to retaliate. Let them, I said, watching through the glass as my family was led to their treatment rooms, each wearing a robe with my name on it. Everything they do here now just puts money in my pocket. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashton. You think you're so clever? Just wait. You have no idea what's coming. I showed the message to Lauren and Marissa. Are you worried? Marissa asked. No, I said, watching through the security cameras as Ashton paced in his treatment room, angrily typing on his phone. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I want to be. Ms. Freya? Anna poked her head in. The photographer is here for the website update. Should we proceed with the photo shoot in the lobby? I smiled thinking of how those photos would look on all the displays my family would have to walk past. Absolutely. Let's show them exactly who's in charge now. As I walked to the lobby, I passed the treatment room where my mother sat fuming in a robe bearing my name. Sometimes revenge doesn't just feel good. It feels absolutely perfect. 3 days after the reveal, Ashton made his move. I was in a staff meeting when Maria burst in, waving her tablet. They're trying to tank us, she announced. Your brother just posted a scathing review on every platform possible. 1-star ratings, accusations of theft, fraud, everything. I grabbed the tablet. The reviews were vicious. New owner acquired spa through deception. Avoid at all costs. Staff are complicit in fraudulent takeover. He's convinced half our regular clients to cancel their memberships, James added, checking the booking system. We've lost 30 appointments just this morning. That's not all, Anna said grimly. Local business pages are picking up the story. Family drama at luxury spa, sister's hostile takeover sparks controversy. My phone rang. My mother. Ready to give up yet? She asked without preamble. Ashton's friends are very influential in the business community. This is just the beginning. Is that why you called? To gloat? No. I called to offer you a way out. Sell the spa back to Lauren. We'll forget this little incident ever happened. I put the phone on speaker. Lauren, would you like to respond to that? Sorry, Susan. Lauren's voice was steel sharp. The spa is exactly where it belongs. Then you'll both go down together. My mother snapped and hung up. She's right about one thing, Maria said. We're hemorrhaging bookings. I turned to Anna. How fast can you put together a response campaign? Give me an hour. But, she hesitated. Maybe we should fight fire with fire? I have some dirt on your brother's business practices. No, I said firmly. We do this right. Professional. Transparent. I have an idea, James said suddenly. Remember all those client satisfaction surveys we've been collecting? The ones showing our improved services? Perfect. Anna's eyes lit up. We can create a response video. Real clients, real testimonials, show the positive changes under new management. And I can release the financial reports, Maria added. Prove everything was done legally. My phone buzzed. Ashton again. Enjoying the reviews, sis? This is what happens when you try to play in the big leagues. Ms. Freya? A staff member appeared at the door. Your father is here. He's asking to speak with you. I found him waiting in the lobby, looking uncomfortable in his business suit. Come to add your own bad review? I asked. No, he said quietly. I came to warn you. Ashton, he's not just using social media. He's calling in favors from business associates, trying to get the health department to investigate us, the tax office to audit us. Why are you telling me this? He shifted uncomfortably. Because what they're doing, it's wrong. And what we did to you all these years, that was wrong too. Dad, let me finish. I watched you grow up being dismissed, ignored. I did nothing. But watching you these past few days, seeing how you run this place, how the staff respects you. He pulled out his phone. I've been taking screenshots of Ashton's messages to his friends, planning this attack. If you need them. Before I could respond, my mother stormed in. Charles, what are you doing here? Supporting our daughter, he said, straightening up. For once. She betrayed us. No, he replied. We betrayed her. Every day. For years. My mother's face reddened. If you do this, if you take her side, then you'll what? I interrupted. Exclude him from spa days? Write him off like you did me? You have no right. I have every right, I said. This is my spa. I earned it. And if you and Ashton want to try to destroy it, go ahead. But remember, I learned everything I know about being ruthless from watching my family. Anna appeared with her tablet. The response video is ready. Should I post it? I looked at my parents. Would you like to see what real success looks like? The video was perfect. Clients praising the improvements, staff sharing their expanded roles, before and after shots of our renovations. And threading through it all, the story of how a dedicated team and new leadership had transformed the spa. It's already getting shares, Anna reported. Positive comments coming in. My father nodded approvingly. You've built something real here. Charles, my mother snapped. We're leaving, now. He handed me his phone. Here, use these if you need to. And Freya? I'm sorry. For everything. After they left, I looked at the screenshots he'd given me. Evidence of Ashton's coordinated attack, proof of his business manipulation. Should we use them? Marissa asked, reading over my shoulder. No, I decided. We do this our way. Anna, post the video. Maria, release the financial reports. James, call our loyal clients personally. And Ashton's attacks? I smiled, watching our response video gain traction online. Let him try. Some of us succeed by building things up, not tearing them down. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from my father. Proud of you, kiddo. Always should have been. The morning sun streamed through the spa's windows as I reviewed the latest numbers with Maria. Our response to Ashton's attacks had worked better than we'd hoped. Bookings are up 40%, Maria reported. And look at this. We've got a waiting list for memberships. Nothing makes something more desirable than trying to tear it down, Lauren observed, sipping her morning tea. My phone buzzed. Ashton. I'd been ignoring his calls for days, but this time I answered. "What do you want?" "We need to talk," he said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. "In person, please." "The spa is booked solid today." "I know, I've been watching the parking lot fill up. Just 15 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I looked at Lauren, who nodded. "Fine, 15 minutes." He arrived looking disheveled, nothing like his usual polished self. "Your response video went viral." "I know. My client saw it. My investors saw it. Do you know what it's like having people ask why I tried to destroy my sister's successful business?" "Actually, I do. It feels a lot like having your brother mock your career choices for years." He flinched. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot more. Look." He ran his hands through his hair. "I was wrong. Not just about the spa. About everything. The way I treated you. The things I said." "Save it," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in apologies. Is that all?" "No." He pulled out his phone. "I posted this an hour ago. You should read it." It was a public statement on his business page. "I owe my sister Freya an apology. My recent attacks on her spa were driven by jealousy and wounded pride. She built something remarkable through hard work and vision, qualities I've claimed to value but failed to recognize in her. I'm retracting all my previous statements and urging my followers to experience the excellent service at Golden Lotus Spa for themselves." "Ashton, wait, there's more." He opened his briefcase. "I want to invest. Properly, legally, as a silent partner. You'd retain full control, but with my backing, you could expand. Open new locations." I stared at him. "Why?" "Because you're better at this than I am," he admitted. "You took everything I thought I knew about business and proved me wrong. And because I miss my sister." Before I could respond, my mother burst in, waving her phone. "Have you seen what your brother posted? This is unacceptable. He's damaging his reputation for—" She stopped short, seeing us both. "Hello, Mom," I said calmly. "We were just discussing business." "Business?" She looked between us. "Ashton, you can't seriously be considering—" "I already have," he interrupted. "And you should too. Look around, Mom. Look what Freya built while we were too busy looking down on her to notice." Just then, James appeared. "Ms. Freya, the journalist is here for the business magazine interview." "Send her up in 5 minutes," I said, then turned to my mother. "You're welcome to stay and watch. See how a real business owner operates." My mother's face softened slightly. "Your father, he's been talking about you nonstop. About how proud he is." "Good for Dad," I said. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an interview." "Wait," Ashton said. "The investment offer? Will you consider it?" I looked at the proposal, then at my brother's face, genuinely hopeful for the first time I could remember. "I'll have my team review it," I said. "No promises." He nodded, understanding the shift in power. "That's fair." After they left, Marissa appeared with coffee. "Well, that was unexpected." "Life usually is," Lauren said. "Speaking of which," she handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter transferring her remaining advisory shares to me. "Lauren, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. You've exceeded every expectation I had. The spa is yours, completely and totally." The journalist entered, notebook ready. "Ms. Freya, shall we begin?" I sat behind my desk, thinking of everything that had led to this moment, the dismissal, the planning, the revenge that had somehow transformed into something more meaningful. "Yes," I said. "Let me tell you about building something that matters." Later that evening, as I walked through the spa, I passed the wall of photos, my family's old promotional shots now replaced with images of our staff, our satisfied clients, our community involvement. My phone buzzed one last time. A group text from my father. "Dinner soon? Just us?" I smiled, typing back, "Yes, but this time, I'm buying." The sun set over the spa, my spa, painting the windows, gold. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others have, but building something they never thought you could. And sometimes, just sometimes, it leads to building something even better. A new understanding, a new respect, a new beginning. I turned off the lights in my office, leaving the success I'd built to rest until tomorrow. After all, I had a dinner to plan with my father.
Hi there. My name's Alexandra. I found out my husband was cheating with my sister. I divorced him, but that wasn't the end. 3 months later, I got 103 missed calls from him in one night, and that's still not the worst part. My parents? They threw me out and threw her an engagement party. Then they asked me, begged me, to save her life. It started with laughter. Not mine. Never mine. I was standing in the corner of a polished ballroom at Cassian's company gala, swirling cheap champagne in a fancy flute, trying to look like I belonged. He was across the room, surrounded by coworkers who all seemed to admire him just a little too much. Ashbridge wasn't a big city, but tonight, the venue looked like something out of a magazine. Marble floors, live string quartet, all meant to dazzle. And it did, for about 15 minutes. Then I noticed how Cassian kept checking his phone, eyes flicking nervously toward the stage. He'd been on edge all week, brushing off my questions with tight smiles and lines like, "It's just a big deal at work, babe. Don't make it more than it is." I wish I'd made more of it. Someone bumped into me gently. "Your husband's getting an award tonight, right? You must be proud." I smiled politely. "I am." What I didn't say, I didn't even know which award. Cassian had stopped sharing those details months ago. The host stepped up to the podium, voice booming through the room. "Let's take a quick walk down memory lane before we honor tonight's leadership team." The lights dimmed. A large screen flickered on behind him. Slideshow time. I braced myself for grainy team-building photos and corporate bonding nonsense. The first few slides were harmless. Company outings, ribbon cuttings, someone winning a chili cook-off. Then came the photo. It popped up like a slap. Cassian, standing barefoot on a beach, laughing. Next to him, my sister, Seren. She was in his arms, her head tilted into his neck, his hand casually resting on her hip like it belonged there. Her smile was wide and smug. A few people chuckled. "Is this real?" Someone whispered near me. I didn't move. Cassian stood frozen too. His jaw clenched, eyes locked on the screen, like maybe if he stared hard enough, it would go away. It didn't. Someone from HR scrambled up to the laptop, yanking the cable from the projector. The screen went black. But it was too late. I had seen it. We all had. Cassian looked at me across the ballroom. He opened his mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to lie. But I turned and walked straight out. I didn't wait for him to follow. I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. Not when my head was pounding and my skin felt like it was on fire. By the time I got home, the silence wrapped around me like armor. I poured a glass of wine with a shaky hand and sat down in the living room, still in my heels. I stared at our wedding photo on the bookshelf, me in lace, him in navy blue, the ocean behind us. I picked it up and turned it face down. That version of us didn't exist anymore. Red flags flashed in my mind like a bad montage. Seren had moved back to Ashbridge just a few months ago. Broke, dumped, and conveniently unemployed. Cassian had suggested helping her find work. It's not a big deal, she's my sister-in-law. And somehow she landed in his department. They started hanging out after hours for project meetings. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way they'd lower their voices when I walked into the room. God, how stupid was I? When Cassian finally came through the door 2 hours later, he looked like he'd been through a war. Tie undone, hair messy, eyes puffy. "Lex," he started. "Look, I didn't know that photo would show up. It was old. It meant nothing." "Don't," I said quietly. He took a step closer. Please, you know how close our families used to be. That trip was forever ago. It's not what you think. I stood. We'll talk tomorrow. I'm tired. He opened his mouth again, probably to toss out another line from the cheater's handbook. You're overreacting. Or maybe, it wasn't like that. I didn't care. I walked into the bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stayed there, still in my dress, the zipper halfway down my back. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stayed up making a plan. I could still hear the zipper. Not the one on my dress, but the one I imagined. Unfastening trust, tearing through years of loyalty like it was nothing but cheap fabric. The morning after the gala, I didn't speak to Cassian. He left early, claiming an emergency client call, but I knew better. It was always something lately, late nights, unread texts, meetings that couldn't wait. He'd been pulling away one excuse at a time. I just hadn't had the nerve to name it. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, nursing a cold cup of coffee, staring at the salt shaker like it might tell me what to do next. That's when I remembered the way Seren had been in the house. Too often, too easily. She'd stopped knocking after the first week. There were moments when I'd walk in from work and find her already in my kitchen, stirring something on the stove like she belonged there. Just helping Cass with dinner, she'd chirp. He's so helpless without me. Back then I'd laughed. I thought I was laughing with her. Now I realized I'd been the punchline. I opened my laptop and Googled something I never thought I'd type. Best discrete security cameras for home. It arrived the next day, the size of a thumb drive. I tucked it behind the curtain rod in our bedroom, angled perfectly at the bed. I told myself it was to clear my doubts, but deep down, I already knew. 2 nights later, I came home early from the grocery store. Cassian hadn't expected me. His car wasn't in the driveway, but I still walked softly as I entered. I went straight to the bedroom. Everything looked untouched, but the pillows weren't where I left them. It was subtle, like someone had turned them around. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed the SD card and slipped it into my laptop. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Cassian walked in, towel wrapped low around his waist. He sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone. Then Serene entered, topless. She tossed a shirt on the chair, laughing. This high-pitched, breathy sound I hadn't heard since high school. He looked up, smiled, and opened his arms. They kissed, long and slow. Then she climbed into our bed, my bed, like it was hers. As she lay back against my pillows, she said, "This mattress is better than anything I had with Kevin. You really scored here." He laughed. I try to keep the women in my life comfortable. I didn't move. I didn't pause the video. I just sat there and watched them erase me. I had made that bed that morning, fluffed the pillows, lit a candle on the dresser, folded his t-shirts, and placed them neatly in his drawer. I had done all the things you do when you think home is sacred, and he brought her into it like it was nothing. When Cassian came home later that evening, he acted like the world was perfectly intact. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door and called out, "Lex? You hungry? I was thinking takeout." I was in the living room, staring at the turned-down photo again. He walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder. I didn't flinch. "I'm not hungry," I said quietly. "I'm going to bed early." He looked at me, confused, maybe even concerned, but I could see it now. Not love, just fear of being caught. I turned and walked to the bedroom. That night, I waited until I heard his breath even out, soft and slow, like a child who believed no one was watching. Then I opened the laptop again, not to rewatch, but to start taking notes. I began compiling passwords, account numbers, lease agreements. I texted my friend Veronica at 2 a.m. "Do you know someone who handles divorce?" Quietly. She replied within minutes. "I know the best." "Want me to connect you tomorrow?" I stared at that message, my phone screen glowing in the dark. Then I slid to the floor next to the door, knees to my chest. No tears, no screams, just stillness. I had been erased from my own life. But I was still breathing, and that meant I still had choices. I could forgive a lie, but I can't share my bed with betrayal. The day the envelope arrived, I was folding laundry in my tiny one-bedroom rental on the edge of Ashbridge. It had been a week since I moved out, 2 since I watched my marriage collapse in the glow of my laptop screen. The mailbox squeaked like it always did. Nothing special about it. Bills, an ad for a tire rotation, and then a cream-colored envelope. Handwritten. My name. My address. I thought it was from my lawyer. Maybe a follow-up to the divorce paperwork. I tore it open with one hand while holding a warm towel against my hip. It was a card. Not just any card, a wedding-themed one. Gold script, embossed letters. A photo fell out and fluttered to the floor. I stared at it. Cassian and Seren, in a sunflower field. She was in a white dress, not quite a gown, but close enough. He stood behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, lips pressed against her cheek. Her eyes were closed. She looked blissful. And on the back, in my mother's handwriting, "Family is everything. You're still welcome, if you choose love over hate." Mom. I sat down slowly, as if gravity had suddenly doubled. There was no invitation inside, no date, no details, just that card and that photo. So it wasn't a mistake, it was a message. I picked up the phone and dialed my mother's number without thinking. She answered on the third ring, her voice too casual, like I'd just called to chat about recipes. "Hi, honey. Got your mail?" "Was that a joke?" I asked, my voice flat. A pause. Then, "Number. I just thought you should know. They're getting engaged. It's happening." "And you're hosting it?" I asked. Another pause. "They need support. We all do." "I needed support," I said, sharper than I intended. "When he cheated on me. With my sister." My mother's voice shifted, calm, cool, dismissive. "You're too emotional. You always take things so personally." I blinked, stunned. "You think this isn't personal? They didn't mean to hurt you. Things just happened. Serene deserves happiness too." There it was. That line again, the family mantra. Serene deserves happiness. As if mine was disposable, optional. "I'm hanging up now," I said. "Alexandra, don't be dramatic." I ended the call. My hands trembled. Not with rage this time, but with something heavier, older. Memories crashed in like waves. Me, grounded for coming home 10 minutes late. Seren, caught sneaking in 2 hours past curfew, laughing, eyes red, smelling like smoke, and getting a hug. Me, asking for $50 for a local volleyball camp, being told to earn it myself. Seren, flying to dance competitions in 3 different states before she turned 16. Dad never said anything, just nodded along with Mom, like a shadow that learned to keep quiet. I crumpled the card and threw it into the sink. Then I stood there, gripping the counter, breathing through my teeth. Later that night, I opened my journal. Not the one where I kept records for the lawyer. This one was just for me. I wrote, "I want a home where no one walks on eggshells. I want children who never feel invisible. I want a love that doesn't come with side glances and secrets. I want peace." Then I took the photo, held it over the sink, and lit a match. The paper curled, the faces distorted, the flames swallowed their joy like it had never existed. And I watched it all turn to ash. I wasn't just losing a marriage, I was burying a bloodline. Brightmoor didn't feel like home yet, but at least it didn't smell like him. The apartment was small, just enough space for a couch, a bed, and a kitchen that looked out onto a quiet street lined with maple trees. I filled the windowsill with succulents and herbs I didn't know how to keep alive, and every morning I tried anyway. That counted for something, didn't it? Work was remote now. I took calls in leggings and slippers. I joined a local women's group that met once a week at a bakery down the block. We didn't talk about trauma, not directly. We traded stories about bad dates, bad bosses, bad habits. Some of them knew what I wasn't saying. They let the silence stretch long enough for me to fill it when I was ready. One night, I made myself dinner. A simple stir-fry, the kind Cassian used to complain about. Could we just order something? I'm not in the mood for kale again. I ate it proudly in my pajamas with a glass of Pinot, watching the rain tap against the window. It was the first time I felt almost okay. Then came the knock. Not a light one. 3 heavy thuds that didn't belong in this quiet place. I stood still, holding my glass midair. The second round of knocking was faster, more urgent. I crept to the door, my feet silent against the floor, and looked through the peephole. Cassian. Of course it was. I didn't move. He stepped back from the door, rubbing his hands together like he was nervous. Lex, please. I just want to talk. I'm not here to argue. My heart didn't race. It dropped. That kind of heavy sinking, that's not fear, not exactly. Just the weight of knowing what's about to happen and not wanting to face it. He spoke again, softer this time. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I opened the door, but only to the length of the chain. What do you want? I asked. He looked tired. Like the kind of tired that wasn't physical. I messed up, I know I did. That's not new information. He sighed. I didn't know who else to talk to. Things with Seren, they're not what I thought. I leaned my forehead lightly against the doorframe. You mean she's not the fantasy you built her into? She changed. No, I said. You just finally saw her for who she's always been. He didn't answer right away. I'm not asking for anything, he added. I just thought maybe we could have some closure, so we're not enemies. I almost laughed. Closure? I repeated. Is that what this is? You burned the house down, and now you want to talk about how warm the fire was? That's not fair, he muttered. I unlatched the chain and opened the door fully, just long enough to step outside. I didn't invite him in. I wasn't that woman anymore. You broke me, I said quietly. And now you want to wrap it all up with a neat bow labeled closure? Number, you don't get that. He shifted on his feet. I didn't come here to make things worse. You did, I said, just by showing up. I miss you, he admitted, eyes low. I shook my head. No, Cassian. You miss who I was when I still believed in you. That woman's gone. We stood there for a moment. Wind brushed past us, tugging at the loose strands of my hair. He looked like he wanted to say something more, but I raised my hand. I'm building something new, and it doesn't include you. I stepped back inside and held the door. Next time, I added, I won't be the one answering. I closed the door, locked it, deadbolt too. Behind it, I exhaled. He stayed out there for another minute. I didn't look. Eventually, his footsteps faded down the hall. Let that be the last time I see his face. Let that be the end of all explanations. Filing the divorce papers felt less like an ending and more like throwing open a window that had been painted shut for years. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I walked into that courthouse in jeans and a blazer, handed over the documents with both hands, and walked out feeling 10 pounds lighter. I bought myself a bouquet of tulips afterward. Yellow ones. The kind he once said looked cheap. They looked like freedom to me. That night, I poured a glass of wine, turned on my favorite old jazz record, and let the music fill the apartment. There was no toast, no speech, just a small moment with myself, the first real celebration I'd had in a long, long time. It's done, I whispered. This is the first day of my real life. But real life, as always, doesn't wait long to test you. The next morning, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Still half asleep, I reached for it, expecting some auto-payment notification or a calendar reminder. Instead, it was a text from my bank. Joint checking. Balance $0, 0 cents. I sat up fast. Opened the app, refreshed. Still 0. I blinked hard, thinking maybe I was misreading it. Maybe it was a glitch. Then another notification popped up. Large withdrawal processed. $28,437 authorized user. Cassian Rowe. The blood drained from my face. I called the bank immediately, pacing the apartment like it could undo what just happened. Yes, ma'am, it was a fully authorized transaction, the representative told me, in a calm voice that made me want to scream. Since the account was joint and the divorce hasn't finalized, both parties retain full access. He didn't just leave me, I muttered. He looted the ruins on the way out. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from fury. He had waited, calculated, just enough time to make sure I wouldn't suspect anything, just long enough for me to start believing I was safe. I texted him, not a rant, just this. You can take the money, I'll build again, but don't mistake silence for surrender. He didn't reply. I spent the rest of the day calling my lawyer, updating all the necessary forms, closing what was left of our shared accounts. I set up a new one in my name only. I canceled every subscription, every automatic payment that tied me to him in any way. Then, I opened my jewelry box and started separating pieces I hadn't worn in years, gifts from him, from my parents. I'd sell what I could. The rest? I didn't need weight in my life that no longer held meaning. I didn't cry. I didn't even swear. I just moved. That evening, I took a walk with Nina, a woman I'd met at the women's group. She had gone through her own war, 10 years with someone who made her doubt her own reflection. She knew the quiet rage that lives just under your skin. I'm not okay, I admitted. You don't have to be, she said. You just have to stay in motion. I'm angry. Good, she smiled. That means the fire's still in you. We walked in silence for a while, our breath fogging in the cool air. I watched a group of kids ride their bikes down the sidewalk, laughing so loudly it echoed. I remembered thinking once that Cassian and I might have had that. Kids, chaos, bedtime stories. Now, I was glad we didn't. When I got home, I put the tulips in water. They had started to bloom, stretching toward the kitchen window, like they knew something better was coming. He took the money. I kept the fire. I was starting to breathe again. The days had fallen into a rhythm. Simple, steady, healing. Work came easier. My appetite had returned. I even joined a community yoga class down the block, where no one knew my story and no one cared who I used to be. Rowan stopped by now and then, never asking for more than I could give. He brought coffee, small talk, warmth. We weren't a thing, not yet. But he made the silence feel safe. One morning, I was chopping vegetables for a soup recipe I'd saved 3 months ago and only now had the energy to try. My phone buzzed on the counter, email notification. Subject line, HR follow-up, workplace conduct concern. I frowned, tapped it open. The email was formal, too formal. Attached was a scanned document labeled, Internal Complaint, Conduct Violation, filed by Seren Rowe. I stood frozen, knife still in my hand, the soup forgotten. The accusations? Threatening texts? Unwanted contact with workplace associates. Verbal harassment. They claimed I had been using my connection to Cassian's job to damage her reputation and stability, that I was unstable, that I needed to be formally addressed. My stomach twisted. It was a lie, every word. And she knew it. I hadn't spoken a single word to anyone at that company since I left town. I hadn't sent a message, not even to Cassian, not since the text about the stolen money. I hadn't even said her name out loud in weeks. I reread the document, this time slower, the legalese feeling more like an assault than protection. And then it hit me. How did they even get my contact information? I called the HR rep listed in the email. She was polite, professional, apologetic. We used the emergency contact information left on file when you helped refer Ms. Rowe for her initial interview, she said. Of course. I'd been the one to suggest the job. I had emailed the hiring manager myself. I had written her a glowing referral. She wasn't just trying to erase me from the picture. She wanted to rewrite the whole history, starting with painting me as the problem. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply through my nose. "She's not satisfied taking him," I said out loud to no one. "She wants to finish the job." I opened my laptop. I spent the next 2 hours crafting a calm, concise response. I stated clearly that I had made zero contact. I attached screenshots, proof of silence. I forwarded a copy of my divorce filing and included a note that I would pursue legal measures should the harassment continue. Then I wrote something else. I opened my private blog. It wasn't massive, but it had grown over the years into a space shared among women who had been through things, real things: betrayal, divorce, estrangement. It wasn't therapy, but it was community. I wrote a new post. The title came to me easily: "What They Take When They Can't Touch You Anymore." I didn't name names. I didn't need to. I wrote about being used as a stepping stone and then accused of being the storm. I wrote about how some people won't rest until they've convinced the world that you're what they broke. And I wrote this: "They don't just want your silence, they want your disappearance. So if you're still here, still standing, don't let them win." The post went live that night. Within hours, the comments started rolling in. Women from everywhere. Some recognized Seren's name from old dance circuits. Others didn't know her, but they knew the story, the pattern, the gaslighting. One comment stuck with me. "They tried to bury you, but they forgot you were a seed." Rowan texted not long after. Just 5 words. "Proud of you. I'm here. Always." I smiled for the first time that day, and then my phone buzzed again. A new message. Unknown number. "Can we talk privately?" Dad. No greeting, no apology. Just that one line, as if the past year hadn't unfolded like a slow-motion car crash I was forced to watch from behind the glass. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then locked. I told myself not to open it again, but I did. I typed, "What is it?" The dots appeared almost instantly. "Your sister's sick. She doesn't have long. Please don't make this worse than it has to be." I blinked. My stomach turned cold. Another message followed. "It's not about who was wrong. It's about what's right. You're the only match we have." I read the words 3 times. There was no "we're sorry," no "we should have believed you," just the ask, clean, transactional. They wanted my body, not my truth, not my forgiveness, not even my presence, just my kidney. My phone buzzed again. "We're not asking you to move back. Just think about what kind of person you want to be." I tossed the phone onto the couch and walked straight to the sink. My hands needed something to do. I started scrubbing a mug I'd already washed, the sponge squeaking against ceramic while my mind screamed through every inch of silence. He didn't reach out when Cassian lied, or when Seren posted that photo, or when Mom defended them like I was some jealous stranger. But now that their precious daughter was sick, now I was useful again. That night, Rowan came over. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. He saw my face and just nodded, giving me space. We watched a movie, sort of. It played in the background while I sat stiff on the couch, arms folded, staring at the wall. When he left, I checked my email before bed. Subject: "Thought you'd want to see this." From Marla. I knew better. But I opened it anyway. There it was. An image, photoshopped, obviously. A smiling picture of Callan, my son, cropped from a school photo and placed between Cassian and Seren, standing in front of some generic suburban home, all of them holding hands like a family unit ripped from a magazine cover. Captioned in cursive at the bottom, "This is family, even if you won't accept it." My hands started shaking so violently, I dropped the phone. They had used my child to manipulate me, to redefine reality. I picked up the phone and dialed. Mom answered on the second ring. "I knew you'd see it. I just wanted you to—" "How dare you?" I said, low and sharp. "How dare you use my son as a pawn?" He deserves to know his family, she shot back. Don't be selfish, Alexandra. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was the only sound I had left that wouldn't turn into a scream. You mean he deserves to know the man who slept with his aunt? Or the woman who tried to erase his mother from the picture? There was silence. You always thought blood mattered more than truth, I said. But let me be clear, blood means nothing without respect, and you have none left. I hung up. I blocked every number tied to them, deleted voicemails I hadn't even listened to, called my lawyer the next morning, and requested a formal no-contact order. They didn't just try to erase me, I said, voice flat. They tried to rewrite me. That evening, I found myself on the back porch, with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders, staring into the dusk. Rowan came and sat beside me. He didn't speak. He didn't touch me. He just waited. After a long while, I said, they can live the rest of their lives knowing I was the only one who could save her, and I chose me. He reached for my hand. Just held it. No pressure. Just presence. And then, as if the universe couldn't let me have a single moment of stillness, the mail came. A thick envelope from the hospital. I opened it slowly. You are a confirmed match for the transplant. Awaiting your scheduling availability. I stared at the letter, feeling nothing and everything all at once. I was a match, but that didn't mean I had to give them anything. The flight back to Ashbridge was quiet, like the sky didn't want to be part of what I was about to do. I didn't take Rowan. I didn't take Callan. I booked a hotel 2 blocks from the hospital and packed only one small bag. No one needed to know I was coming. No one but the hospital coordinator, who had been calling every other day since the match was confirmed. When I walked through the front entrance, the woman at the desk looked up, recognized my name on the schedule, and smiled like this was some kind of reunion. You're the donor, right? The match? They're very relieved. I gave a polite nod. I didn't say a word. I wasn't here to save anyone. The nurse guided me through pre-op intake, even though I hadn't signed a consent form. I let her check my vitals, ask about allergies, hand me a hospital badge. I followed the steps because I needed access, not participation. I came here for one reason, I said silently to myself as I looked down the hallway toward the transplant wing. And it's not what they think. The conference room was already full when I arrived. Marla sat in the corner, clutching a tissue as if rehearsing grief. Dale stood behind her, arms crossed, trying too hard to appear composed. The transplant surgeon was flipping through a file, reviewing charts like this was just another Tuesday. And then there was Seren, pale, hollow-eyed, but smiling when she saw me, like nothing had happened, like this was a normal family reunion. Alex, she said, her voice thin but familiar. You came. She reached out, her hand twitching from the IV. I didn't move closer yet. I waited for the surgeon to begin. We're fortunate, he said, addressing the room. You're an exceptional match, rare, even among siblings. The procedure itself is routine, and your recovery will be closely monitored. Now, before we proceed with consents, I raised my hand. He paused. Everyone turned toward me. I'd like to say something. Seren blinked. Marla sat up straighter. Dale narrowed his eyes. I stepped forward and stopped just short of Seren's bed. I looked down at her, at the woman who stole my husband and never once apologized. The woman who posted photos of my child with her arms around him like he was hers. I took her hand, not to comfort, but to hold her still. Did you hear what they said? I asked softly. I'm a perfect match. The only one. Her eyes filled with tears. Hope bloomed across her face. But I won't save you. The room fell silent. What? She whispered. Why? Because you took something from me, I said, steady and sure. Something I can't get back. And now, for the first time in my life, I get to choose me. Seren started to speak, but I let go of her hand. I turned to my parents. Marla's mouth was open in disbelief. Dale looked like he'd been slapped. "Don't ever contact me again," I told them. "Not for death, not for birth, not for holidays or apologies or redemption. I owe you nothing." "You'll let her die?" Marla asked, stunned. "I'll let her face what she created." And with that, I walked out. No screaming, no drama. Just the sound of my heels clicking against the tile, echoing louder than anything they had left to say. Outside, the air hit my face like water after fire. I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs in a way I hadn't in years. I pulled out my phone and called Rowan. "I did it," I said. I walked away, not in anger, just clarity. There was a pause, then his voice, warm and grounding. "Come home." I smiled. At the gate, I sat quietly, one hand resting on my lap, the other clutching my boarding pass like it was a passport to something new. That, I whispered to myself, was the only thing I ever gave her. The chance to know what losing feels like. Back in Brightmoor, the trees had started to blush with autumn. Leaves swirled across the porch as my sons played with sidewalk chalk, their giggles carrying into the crisp air like tiny birdsong. I sat on the steps, a cup of tea warming my hands, watching them scribble stick figures and stars across the concrete. Rowan's mother stopped by, as she often did now, holding a paper-wrapped loaf still warm from the oven. She kissed my cheek and said, "You look lighter." I didn't argue. I had finally found quiet, not the kind that comes from emptiness, but the kind you earn after surviving the noise. And of course, that's when the ghosts came knocking. That night, just after I tucked the boys in, I went to plug in my phone and noticed the screen blinking nonstop. Missed call after missed call. 28, 43, 60, 90. By the time I opened the log, it was 103, every single one from Cassian. I didn't panic. I didn't flinch. I just stared. The final voicemail transcribed itself as I watched. "She's dying. She blames me. I don't know what to do. Please. I'm sorry. Just, please." The desperation was real, but it wasn't mine to carry. Rowan walked in quietly, glanced at my face, then down at the screen. He didn't ask. He simply reached out, turned off the phone, and said, "Let's keep it off tonight." I nodded. I didn't respond to the calls. Not one. Instead, I pulled out a journal I hadn't written in for months. And I wrote, "He chose her. My family chose her. And I chose myself." That's the story. The next morning, Rowan offered to help me change my number. We added new locks to the front and back doors. Upgraded the security cameras too. "You never need to hear from them again," he said. "I don't want to," I replied. And I meant it. Later that afternoon, I opened a storage box I hadn't touched since I moved in. At the bottom, beneath papers and scarves and old receipts, was the wedding photo I had once slammed face down. I looked at it for a long time. Not with anger, not even grief, just clarity. Then I placed it gently in the donation pile. Someone else could use the frame. That evening, after the boys were in bed, I stepped out into the backyard to find fairy lights strung across the trees. A blanket on the grass. 2 glasses of wine. Rowan was waiting, barefoot, holding a basket of crackers and cheese like it was the finest picnic ever planned. "No special reason," he shrugged. "I just wanted to toast." "To what?" I asked, smiling despite myself. He raised his glass. "To choosing peace over proving a point." We clinked glasses, and for once, there was no aftershock waiting to ruin the stillness. Later, as I sat barefoot in the grass, arms around my knees, stars overhead, and warmth beside me, I whispered to myself, "I still carry the scar, but it no longer stings." This was home, not perfect, not polished, but mine. And I was surrounded by sons who knew they were seen, by a partner who chose me in both silence and storm, by a family I built, not one I was born into. There is no next chapter, just the one I write from here, with my own pen. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is choose yourself, especially when the people who were supposed to love you first are the ones who hurt you the deepest. I used to think loyalty meant staying silent. I used to believe that forgiveness was mandatory. But I've learned something else. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. Not ex-husbands, not blood relatives, not the ones who rewrite history just to make themselves look like heroes. You are allowed to walk away from people who handed you grief in the name of family. You are allowed to heal on your own terms. And if you're watching this right now, maybe going through something just as messy, just as painful, I want you to know, you're not alone. You are not broken. And you don't need their approval to rebuild something beautiful. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they kept choosing to hurt you? What would choosing yourself look like for you today? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And hey, if this video moved you, made you pause, or helped you feel seen, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't speak to you, I'd still love to know why, and where in the world you're tuning in from. Let's connect. Let's grow through what we go through. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories that heal, challenge, and empower, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. You matter. Your voice matters. And this space, it's for us. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's the only one you've got. Hi, my name's Rowena, and 12 years ago, my family erased me like I was nothing. No calls, no holidays, just gone. Now? They're throwing a wedding like none of it ever happened. But what if I told you the bride stole my future? The groom once humiliated me in a boardroom, and my own mother forged a DNA test to cut me out of the will? The envelope didn't belong in my mailbox. Cream-colored, thick, expensive stock. My name written in calligraphy I hadn't seen in over a decade. But I'd know that handwriting anywhere. My mother's. Even if her name wasn't at the bottom of the card, her presence seeped through the ink like a warning. Inside, gold trim, embossed letters, 2 names. Callamore Desmond Hale. I stared at it so long the edges curled slightly in my hand. Calla, my sister, if you could still call her that, was getting married at the Grand Solace Hotel. That was Seattle royalty territory. Crystal chandeliers, $500 dinners, a waiting list just to breathe near the ballroom. And someone, somehow, thought I should be there. 12 years. 12 years since anyone in that family had said my name without venom. Or silence. And now, a wedding invitation? No note, no apology, no, we miss you. Just a cold summons wrapped in gold foil. Was it a mistake? Number that script was too deliberate. This wasn't an olive branch. It was a setup. I could feel it. My gut twisted as I flipped the card again and again, like maybe the back would explain why they wanted me there. And then I saw it. Desmond Hale. That name sent a small chill down my spine. I knew him. Not well, but enough. We'd met once, years ago, in a boardroom, when I was trying to pitch funding for my startup. He'd been the CFO of a pharmaceutical giant, one of those smug, polished types who looked through you while pretending to listen. He told me my projections were impressive for someone so early in their journey, which was code for, "You're too young, too female, and I don't take you seriously." Now he was marrying my sister. What were the odds? Except I don't believe in odds. I believe in intention. People like my family don't operate by accident. This wasn't a coincidence. It was bait. Glittery, gold-embossed bait. And they didn't think I'd bite. But they forgot one thing. I'm not the same girl they shoved out the front door, with nothing but a duffel bag and a broken heart. That girl's dead. I tossed the envelope onto the counter and walked to the window. Seattle's skyline blinked back at me through the rain-streaked glass. I could see the outline of the Grand Solace from here. Funny, for years I tried to erase them from my life. Now they wanted me back just long enough to smile for the cameras and whisper behind my back. I felt my chest tighten, but it wasn't fear. It was something colder. something focused. They didn't know who I'd become. They didn't know that I'd built something from the nothing they left me with. That I had a husband who believed in me when no one else would. That I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was winning. I opened my closet, reached for a sleek black dress I'd been saving for something that mattered. I ran my fingers over the fabric, clean lines, powerful silhouette. It wasn't bridal, it was war-ready. My phone buzzed, a text from Jareth. "You okay?" I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back, "I'm going to the wedding." Pause. "You sure?" he replied. I didn't hesitate. It's time. This wasn't about closure. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about reclaiming my name, my story, my damn place in the room. They wanted a spectacle. They'd get one, but not the kind they were expecting. I zipped the dress, stepped into my heels, and looked at myself in the mirror. Polished, composed, ruthless. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at their table. I came to flip the damn table over. That night, I couldn't sleep. My body was still, but my mind wouldn't shut up. Jareth was out cold, but I sat by the window, city lights flickering below, clutching the invitation like it might bite. So the next morning, I did what I always do when my head gets too loud. I walked. Pike Place was just waking up, crates clattering, espresso hissing, the air thick with fish and bread and tulips. It should have calmed me. Instead, it took me back. Back to being 16, second-hand cardigan, hoping someone, anyone, would believe me. It was the day my mother's diamond necklace disappeared. I wasn't supposed to be in her room. Calla left the curling iron on again, and I got blamed. I went in to unplug it. That's it. 10 minutes later, my father's voice boomed through the house. "She was the only one in there," Calla said, fake tears and all. My mother didn't even pause. "You've always been selfish," she snapped, "and now this." But my dad, that look in his eyes, like I was something he couldn't wash off. "Disappointment follows you like a shadow," he muttered. "They never found the necklace. Not in my room, not anywhere. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. I wasn't punished. I was erased. Dinner alone, no rides, no friends. Just silence. And Calla, smirking in the hallway, like the universe had finally aligned in her favor. That's when I learned the truth. In my family, image mattered more than facts, and they'd already picked their golden child. College was supposed to be my reset. It wasn't. It started with whispers. Then, one day, my roommate shoved her phone in my face. "Did you see this?" A student blog post. "The real Rowena Clade. The girl who lies, steals, and plays the victim." No author, of course. But the tone? I knew it like a scar. She manipulates professors. Ask her about the necklace her family never got back. My stomach dropped. My inbox dried up. Project partners vanished. A professor pulled me aside. Perception matters. I wanted to scream, but I'd learned. It doesn't matter what's true, just what people think is. That post cost me a research grant. Almost made me quit school. I couldn't prove it was Calla, but I knew. She didn't just want to win. She needed me to lose. I thought I'd moved on. Buried all that. Until last night. Until that envelope reopened the wound that never really healed. Back home, I pulled up the old blog. Didn't think it would still be live. It was. Still online. Still poisonous. No tears this time, just fire. "They never cleaned up the mess," I whispered. "They never thought I'd come back to find it." I screenshotted everything. Saved server data. This wasn't nostalgia. This was evidence. Because that 16-year-old girl, the one they silenced, she'd been waiting, watching, growing teeth. And now I've got the shovel. The irony hit hard the next morning. I wasn't even looking for it, just sipping coffee, half awake, scrolling through emails, when a LinkedIn notification popped up. Congrats to alumna Calla Moore for her groundbreaking research featured in the Leaders in Wellness Spotlight. My stomach dropped. I clicked the article, already bracing for impact. Sustainable Solutions in Community-Based Nutritional Support. My title, word for word. The phrases, The model. The exact conclusion I spent months refining. Every line lifted, scrubbed of my name, and stamped with hers. There she was, beaming beside the article, polished, radiant, like life had only ever handed her green lights. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered. But of course she wasn't. Calla had always gotten away with it. And our parents? They'd just nod, beam, and say, "She's gifted, honey. Maybe take notes." They never asked where her talent came from. Back in college, I was barely staying afloat, tutoring at sunrise, stocking shelves past midnight, living off cold ramen and campus Wi-Fi. My thesis was everything. 8 months of work, a nutritional model for underserved neighborhoods, built from real community data. One night, Calla dropped by, said she was just in the area. I was exhausted, proud, starving for validation. "I think this could actually win something," I told her. "Maybe even that Women in Health Sciences scholarship." She smiled. Too soft, too sweet. "Wow, you did all this?" I should have known. A week later, my research folder vanished from the student drive. IT found nothing, no log, no trace. I submitted an old backup, half done. It bombed. Guess who won the scholarship? "Calla Moore," they announced at the spring gala. My name wasn't even listed. She waved. My parents clapped in the front row. Someone behind me muttered, "She's just on another level." I smiled like I wasn't breaking in half. I never told anyone. Who would believe me? The tired, angry sister? The girl barely passing biostats? "She earned it," Mom said when I brought it up. "She works harder than you think," Dad added. "You could learn from her." I did. Now, 10 years later, I printed the LinkedIn article and slid it into a manila folder, already thick with receipts. Screenshots of her anonymous blog posts, suspicious transcripts, sketchy financial records. That fake smile she wears like it's bulletproof. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proof. For me. To know I hadn't imagined it. That the lies were real. That they didn't forget me. They erased me. I added a sticky note to the folder. This is where her story ends. Still, I didn't comment. Didn't forward it. Didn't say a word. I waited. Because I've learned, when someone sets a trap for you, the smartest move is to pretend you didn't see it. Then show up anyway. Let them shine. Let them get comfortable. I'll be the one holding the switch when the lights go out. She wore the crown, but I built the throne. And now, I'm coming to take it back. I didn't expect an old photo album to rattle me. It was just supposed to be part of the prep, gathering context, gathering proof. But as I clicked through a buried Facebook album titled More Family Memories, something snapped loose in my chest. It was the smiles that gave it away. Too white, too perfect. Each frame felt like a page from a catalog. Holiday sweaters in forced harmony, Easter brunches with pastel lies. The background changed, but the script never did. And she was always at the center. Vivian. My mother didn't smile. She presented. Her jaw was always tight, her eyes rehearsed. Even back then, she made it look easy to stage a perfect life while making sure no one saw the blood under her nails. Her words rang in my ears, that same tired phrase she tossed around like air freshener. "We don't air our family's mess in public." Right. We just bury it under matching napkins and crystal goblets. I used to think she just didn't love me. But now I see it clearer than ever. She didn't hate me. She managed me. Like a campaign manages its scandals. She had always been the one pulling strings. Not in bursts of rage, but with a scalpel. Clean, precise, always in control. My father may have delivered the harsh words, and Calla the stabs in the back. But the choreography? The way our family twisted around appearances and silence and shame? That was all Vivian, and I had danced to her tune for far too long. One memory in particular wouldn't let go. I was 14. We were at a gala for the hospital foundation. I'd practiced my little speech for weeks. Nothing big, just a thank you on behalf of the Moore girls. Something about community and opportunity. I stood there in a borrowed dress that itched at the seams, trying to remember the words. I stumbled. Not even badly, just lost my place for a second. I saw her smile tighten like a crack in glass. After I walked off stage, she grabbed my arm. Hard. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? She hissed through clenched teeth. My fingers went numb from her grip, but her face never changed for the cameras. When we got home, she didn't yell, she cut. You made us look careless. If you can't perform, you shouldn't volunteer. Kala would have never embarrassed me like that. That was the night I stopped performing for her. But some part of me kept hoping she'd notice me anyway. Maybe that's the cruelest part, when you stop expecting love but still ache for approval. I closed the photo album and opened a document I hadn't touched in months. The file labeled Family Patterns. It wasn't evidence, not legally, but it was proof. My proof. The interviews Kala gave over the years, they echoed phrases Vivian used constantly growing up. Excellence is the bare minimum. Real strength is staying quiet under pressure. It wasn't just coincidence. Vivian didn't raise Kala. She wrote her. She didn't favor Kala because she loved her more. She favored her because Kala played the role better. Compliant, camera ready, willing to be molded. Me? I asked questions. I broke choreography. I refused to smile when it felt fake. So she tried to snip me out of the frame. Well, not anymore. I added more to the folder. Photos, clips, articles. Then I opened a new email window and paused. The cursor blinked. You taught me to be silent, I whispered, the words bitter on my tongue. Now you'll hear everything I've held back. I typed slowly, deliberately. Subject line: regarding more family reputation. I attached my notes, a handful of curated records, and a short summary. Then I sent it. The recipient? A journalist named Becca Lane. We'd worked together once, years ago, when I helped her expose corruption at a supplement chain. She owed me a favor. She also had no problem burning powerful families to the ground. I didn't need her to publish anything. Not yet. But I needed her to know the story was real. Because if my mother taught me anything, it was how to keep your face still while everything behind it burns. But she forgot one thing. I learned how to weaponize silence. She taught me how to smile through pain, but forgot I learned how to weaponize silence. I thought I'd unearthed every secret there was to find. But then came the envelope. No return address, no handwriting I recognized. Just a plain white envelope in my mailbox, sealed with purpose. Inside, folded neatly between two generic sheets of copier paper, was a DNA report. At first, I didn't process it. I skimmed the header. Private Genetic Screening, Pacific Diagnostics, 2015. Then my eyes locked onto the result at the bottom. Inconclusive maternal match. My heart stuttered. I read it again. And again. The name listed under subject was mine. Rowena Clade. The maternal sample? Vivian Moore. I felt the floor shift under me. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. Heat flushed through my chest, my skin cold and clammy. No stamp, no note. Just that one phrase, inconclusive. I sat down, hard. It was fake. I knew it in my bones. But that didn't matter. Not when it had already done its damage. I opened my old records drawer, the one I almost never looked at. Buried under tax returns and expired IDs was the last legal correspondence I'd received from the Moore estate's attorney. A scanned copy of the revised will, dated just 6 months after that DNA report. My name, gone. I wasn't just cut out of the will, I was erased from the lineage. This wasn't just banishment, this was extermination. Vivian didn't want me to walk away. She wanted to burn the bridge so thoroughly that even the ashes couldn't whisper my name. That day, I remembered something I hadn't let myself revisit in years. It was 2016. I was 23. I'd called the family lawyer, more out of desperation than hope, asking about my grandfather's inheritance, the one he'd once told me I'd receive, no matter what your mother thinks. I never got a call back. Weeks later, the accountant emailed me with a single line. You are not listed as a beneficiary on file. I assumed it was punishment. that they were still angry I'd left without a goodbye. I blamed myself. Now I know the truth. My own mother manufactured a lie so clinical, so clean, no one questioned it. Why would they? People believe paperwork. They believe doctors and seals and signatures. They don't believe daughters who were always difficult. But Vivian forgot one thing. Lies leave trails. And I've learned to follow them. With Jareth's help, we tracked the clinic. Pacific Diagnostics had closed 3 years after that report was dated. No surprise, it turned out to be a shell company, flagged for financial irregularities. One of the doctors listed on the form had his license revoked for falsifying lab results. A payment surfaced, $5,000 wired to a private P.O. box weeks before the report was filed. The sender? Vivian Moore. "She didn't just want to forget you," Jareth said quietly, his hand resting on my back. "She wanted the world to forget you ever existed." I didn't cry. I expected to, but something inside me had already died long before the paperwork showed up. I was done grieving. This wasn't the kind of hurt you wept over. This was the kind of betrayal you sharpened into strategy. That night, I sat at my desk, pulled out my laptop, and began drafting a message. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a plea. It was a reckoning. Clean, final, impossible to misread. Subject, I know. I wrote, I know about the test. I know about the lie. And I'm done playing the daughter you tried to delete. I paused, then added one last line. Undo it, or I'll do it publicly. No threats, no theatrics, just truth with a spine. I hit send, and I smiled, because for the first time in years, the silence that followed wasn't mine to carry. She tried to erase my name, but now, the grand solace shimmered like a lie made of glass, too perfect, too polished, like no one inside had ever tasted shame, which made it the perfect stage. I walked through the lobby with my head high, wearing a navy silk dress that clung just right, backless and unapologetic. I didn't come to blend in. I came to be seen. The ballroom doors swung open, and just like that, every eye in the room landed on me. The hum of conversation faltered. A few gasps. Champagne flutes paused mid-air. Vivian's hand twitched, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening around her crystal stem. Her face didn't break, but her eyes said everything. She wasn't supposed to come. Calla looked up from her seat near the stage. Her smile strained. It cracked at the edges, like something brittle left out in the cold too long. And Desmond, God, Desmond! His jaw clenched the second he saw me, like memory hit him harder than he expected. I took a slow step forward, then another, letting the quiet stretch. You didn't expect me to RSVP, I said, voice even, eyes locked on my mother. I didn't. I just arrived. I wasn't here for forgiveness. I was here for the reckoning. Dinner continued, but the air stayed heavy. The clinking of silverware sounded like distant thunder. People whispered, pretending not to stare, but they all did. The toast began. Calla's best friend stood, glass raised, gushing about love, resilience, destiny. I let her finish, let the polite applause settle. Then I stood. I'd like to say a few words, I announced, stepping up beside the speaker. Calla's smile dropped like a shutter. I held up my glass. To truth, I said, letting the pause hang like a blade. And those who fake it. The silence was instant. Even the music stopped. I turned to my sister. Calla, I said sweetly, where exactly did you earn your MD? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Just a stammer, a slight shake of the head. I only ask, I continued, pulling a small folder from my clutch, because this transcript you submitted to the Health Advisory Board, it's interesting. I handed it to Desmond, who accepted it without a word. It says you graduated with honors from Pacific University. Problem is, the course codes don't match their curriculum, and you never submitted a final capstone. Also, your GPA inflated by quite a bit. Calla's voice finally cracked through the tension. This is insane. This is not the time or place. Vivian stood then, her voice sharp, trying to take control. Enough of this. Rowena, if you had an ounce of class. I turned to her, calm as ice. Class? You forged a DNA test to disinherit me. Sit down. Gasps spread like wildfire. I looked back at Calla. You built your entire career on a lie. A medical lie. While real people trusted you, believed in your expertise. Desmond's hands trembled as he scanned the document. He looked up at her slowly. Is this true? Calla didn't answer. She couldn't. He dropped the papers onto the table and stepped back. I defended you, he said, voice low and tight. God, I defended you to everyone. Calla reached for him. Des, baby, please don't let her ruin this. She didn't ruin it, he snapped. You did. And with that, he walked out. Calla tried to follow, but no one moved with her. The room remained still. Her audience evaporated. Her perfect image cracked under the weight of her silence. I didn't stay for dessert. I walked out of that ballroom without a glance back. Outside, the night air was crisp, cold against my skin, but I welcomed it. I breathed it in like clarity. My phone buzzed in my bag. A voicemail. I didn't need to listen. I already knew the tone. Tight, venomous, calculated. Vivian always did hate losing control. I deleted it without opening it. Above me, the sky stretched dark and open. I looked up and smiled. That was just the beginning. I didn't tremble. I didn't second guess. They built a house of mirrors, and I just threw the first stone. The message landed in my inbox at 6:14 a.m. No subject line, no sender name I recognized. Just one sentence. I remember you. You deserve to know what really happened with Calla's suspension. My pulse kicked. I clicked. An attachment loaded. A redacted hospital incident report dated back to 2017. Patient. Male, age 9. Diagnosis. Mild asthma. Overnight observation. Outcome. Induced coma due to incorrect dosage of epinephrine. Attending. Dr. Calla Moore. Status. Case dismissed. No charges filed. No charges. No accountability. Just a buried scandal and a clean slate. I blinked at the screen, barely breathing. Attached to the email was a short note. She wasn't supposed to be near a pediatric floor, but they pulled strings. I couldn't say anything back then, but maybe you can now. My hands trembled, then steadied. This wasn't just about me anymore. I saved the files, encrypted them twice, and moved. Fast. By noon, an anonymous tip landed in the inbox of 3 independent Seattle health watchdog blogs, the kind of outlets that thrived on whistleblowers and weren't afraid of lawsuits. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. But I also didn't stop there. I opened a new message. To Dr. Thomas Kellner. Subject, More residency reinstatement. Clarification needed. Would you like to clarify how your star resident was reinstated without a formal hearing after a pediatric incident with long-term trauma effects? I'm attaching records you may have forgotten to review. I didn't need him to reply. The silence from institutions is always louder than their words. By the following morning, Calla's profile was scrubbed from the hospital's website. Social media lit up like a spark to dry leaves. Dr. Calla Moore removed from pediatric center list. Why? Unconfirmed rumors about malpractice in 2017 resurface. I watched from my laptop, coffee in hand, the way one might observe a building being demolished. Controlled, necessary, satisfying. At 3:42 p.m., Vivian showed up at my door. She didn't knock. She pounded. I opened it calmly, stepped aside. You've gone too far, she hissed, barely inside. This is your sister's wedding week. This is accountability week, I said, arms crossed. You're destroying her life. She put a child in a coma. No charges were filed. Because you made sure of that. Her eyes flared. You don't understand the pressure she was under. No, you don't get to twist this into some sad little pity story. You protected her lies and buried a family's pain just to keep your name clean. Her hand trembled as she pointed at me. You always wanted to be the martyr. But this? This is disgusting. And what do you call what you did to me? I asked, voice steady. You faked a DNA test. You let them believe I didn't belong in my own family. You made me invisible. And now you're mad I finally made myself seen. She stared at me, breathing heavy, fury pouring off her in waves. Behind her in the hallway, I noticed Gregory. Quiet. Still. For once, not defending, not posturing, just absorbing. His silence said more than his words ever could. You think this makes you powerful? Vivian snapped. You think being vindictive makes you righteous? No, I said, walking to the door and opening it wide. But telling the truth makes me free. She didn't move. I won't be quiet again, I added. So unless you came here to confess something, you can leave. For a long moment, she stood there. And then, without a word, she walked out. I closed the door behind her, turned, and exhaled. I called the number from the email. The nurse, her name was Teresa, picked up after 3 rings. I wanted to say thank you, I said. There was a pause. Then her voice, soft but firm. Someone had to speak up. I just didn't expect it would be the sister. Neither did they, I replied. This wasn't revenge. This was justice they thought would never come. And it's only just arrived. The file landed on my desk like a quiet detonation. It wasn't printed on heavy stock paper or stamped in red. It was simple, clean. Legal audit results compiled by Jareth's firm. Neatly organized, with tabs and dates. No dramatics, just devastating facts. Wire transfers from the Moore Family Clinic. Reimbursements, medical equipment purchases, charitable donations. Every last one tagged under my name. Payee, Rowena Clade. There were IRS filings in years I hadn't earned a dime. Returns I never submitted. Refunds I never saw. The first transaction dated back to when I was 19, living on energy bars and sharing a studio apartment with 2 roommates and a mold problem. I didn't have a credit card, let alone a reason for a $42,000 medical consulting fee. They used me as a shield while I was eating ramen in a shared basement, I muttered, voice dry. Jareth stood behind me, arms crossed. They tied your identity to at least 4 shell accounts. If this hadn't been flagged in a forensic sweep, the IRS would have come for you next year. I couldn't speak. There's a difference between being abandoned and being exploited. One leaves you hurt. The other leaves you gutted. They didn't just cast me out. They built a financial firewall from the ashes of my existence. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I moved. Because I finally had the final brick, and I was going to take the whole damn tower down with it. The Moore Foundation Gala was black tie, media heavy, crawling with donors and legacy families. I didn't have an invite. I didn't need one. I wore black. Slipped in through a side entrance, past catering trays and wine lists, and the rot of polished corruption. Gregory was mid-speech when I walked onto the stage. The room hushed like someone had pulled a fire alarm. He blinked, confused, until recognition dawned. Vivian froze mid-sip. Calla flinched. I smiled, microphone in hand. Before you donate tonight, I said, slow and calm, you might want to know where your money's been going. Gasps echoed as I handed a USB drive to the AV tech behind me. Screens around the ballroom flickered, then filled with spreadsheets, emails, bank logs. One labeled file read, Rowena Clade Consulting. Beneath it, a signature, G. Moore. People murmured. A few stood. One donor's wife whispered, Is that her real daughter? Vivian turned pale. Gregory reached for the mic. This is a mistake. These documents. This is clearly doctored. Actually, a voice said from the crowd, they're not. Jareth. He stepped forward, suit crisp, expression unreadable. Our firm submitted the originals to the IRS and the state attorney general. Gregory's mouth snapped shut. Then Desmond appeared beside him. And to the medical board, he added, because I won't stand behind frauds anymore. Vivian tried to salvage it. She reached for Calla, but Calla pulled her hand away, glaring. How could you drag me into this? She hissed. Row by row, the audience turned on them. The once perfect Moore family, Seattle's elite, unraveled in front of donors, press, and legacy families. Right there under the chandeliers they loved so much. I didn't flinch, didn't move, just stood there in the storm of their collapse, steady as stone. They had the money, the status, the lies, but I had the truth. And it was louder than all of them. I didn't wait for the fallout. I didn't linger for applause. I walked out. Outside, the air was cold but clean, the kind of crispness that made everything before feel suffocating. My heart pounded, not from nerves, but from release. This moment wasn't revenge. It wasn't fury. It was peace. It was truth, finally unchained. I looked up at the sky, the city skyline twinkling like it was in on the secret with me. And truth, I whispered, is finally enough. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I just stopped protecting them, and they did the rest. 2 weeks later, my world was quiet. Not the eerie kind of silence that follows an explosion. Not the numb, shell-shocked stillness that feels like it's waiting for something else to fall apart. This was peace. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom window. For once, I didn't wake up dreading a phone call, a headline, or a lawyer's letter. No reporter had camped outside. No call from Vivian. Not even a burner text from Calla. Just air, still and clean. I padded barefoot to the balcony, coffee in hand, robe loose around my waist. The city below kept moving, but up here, it felt like time paused for me. Is this what healing feels like? Not a roar. A hum. I sipped my coffee and let it settle into me. The old Rowena would have second-guessed it. Waited for the other shoe. Searched the sky for signs of smoke. But not this time. Because nothing was left to burn. I still hadn't deleted the voicemail. I don't know why. Her voice crackled slightly. Too tight. Too furious. You've humiliated us. You'll regret this. I don't know who you think you are, but you will answer for what you've done. But it was the last line that stayed with me. Not the words. The sound. A catch in her throat. Almost like pain. Almost. It wasn't an apology. Not even close. It was still control, even now. Still spinning her narrative, even in defeat. But it didn't sting anymore. Calla never called. Not a single text, not even a fake, "Are you happy now?" voicemail. I didn't expect her to. Desmond, though, surprised me. He sent one message. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time before typing back, I know. I believe you. But I don't need anything from you anymore. And I meant it. Letting go doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it just comes with choice. Gregory's medical license was under suspension. The clinic was frozen, pending a full investigation. IRS audit teams had started combing through 12 years of reports. Vivian had gone dark. No interviews, no charity appearances, no statements. And Calla? Word was, she left the city. Quietly, probably hoping to rebuild somewhere no one knew her name. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't anything. I was watching. Because when people fall, it's easy to cheer or pity. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply witness. That's enough for me. That afternoon, I walked into my office downtown. My staff, my people, smiled, greeted me with warmth, respect, no fear, no gossip, just community. Miriam showed up that evening, my first real boss, the one who handed me a broom instead of a lecture when I was 17 and homeless. She brought flowers, sunflowers actually. You made it out, she said, her voice cracking just slightly. I had to, I told her. There was no air left in there. Jareth took my hand across the dinner table that night. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. You did what no one else could, Ro, he said finally. You gave them every chance. And when they still chose power over love, you didn't let them take you down with them. I nodded, too full to speak. Not with food, with clarity. Because I had spent years thinking justice had to look like punishment. But maybe it looks like release. And maybe freedom doesn't always come with forgiveness, but it comes. And when it does, it feels like standing barefoot in sunlight, with no one else deciding your story for you. They may never say sorry, but I no longer need to hear it. I am free. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. Not fireworks, not dramatic finales. Just waking up and realizing you're no longer fighting to be seen, heard, or loved by people who only ever wanted to shape you into something they could control. If my story touched something in you, if you've ever been silenced, cast aside, or made to feel like your worth depended on someone else's approval, I want you to hear this. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to keep carrying the weight they dropped on you. You don't have to protect those who never protected you. You are allowed to speak up, to step away, to rebuild. And yes, even to thrive without ever hearing, "I'm sorry," because forgiveness is powerful, but freedom? Freedom is everything. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where walking away was the bravest thing you did? Or maybe you're still holding on. What's stopping you from letting go? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. If this story hit home for you, type 1 in the comments so I know it reached the right hearts. If it didn't resonate, I'd still love to hear why and where you're tuning in from. Your voice matters, your story matters. And you're not alone. If you want more stories like this, real, raw, and rooted in truth, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story to remind us we still get to write our own. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a narration script or animated scene voiceover. Hi there, I'm Maris. And yeah, you read that right. My sister's birthday party was booked at my hotel, without my permission. She strutted in with her fiancé's family like she owned the place, then looked me in the eye and told the staff to kick that homeless woman out. That homeless woman was me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was, my entire family knew. They planned it. They expected me to pay for it, in silence. The second I stepped onto the porch of my parents' house in New Orleans, that familiar ache pressed down on my chest, like my lungs knew to brace before my heart caught up. It was early June, humid, with the smell of jasmine and crawfish hanging in the air. I hadn't been home in nearly 5 months, not because I was too busy, but because I knew exactly how this would go. My mother greeted me with that smile, the one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Maris, honey, look at you. Still wearing black, huh?" she chirped, kissing the air near my cheek. "You know, a little color wouldn't kill you." I forced a laugh. "Hi, Mom." Dad was already at the dinner table, half done with his lasagna, eyes glued to his plate like it might solve world hunger if he stared long enough. And then there was Seren. She was lounging on the love seat like she was posing for a photo shoot, draped in a designer dress I'm sure she didn't pay for. Her lips curled into that smug half-smile I'd grown up hating. "Well, well," she said, standing. "New Orleans' favorite mystery woman returns. Did you finally finish alphabetizing your spreadsheets?" I didn't bite. I just nodded and took a seat across from her. The table was set with our mother's best china, which only came out for holidays, interventions, or announcements. That should have been my first clue. Dinner started stiff. Mom complimented the weather, Dad mentioned traffic, and Seren posted a selfie mid-meal, her phone angled to avoid capturing my face. I should have walked out right then. Instead, I took a bite of bread and tried to convince myself this was just dinner. Then Seren stood up. "I have something exciting to share," she beamed, lifting her glass. "My 33rd is around the corner, and it's gonna be iconic, like Kardashian-level iconic." I kept chewing. "I've found the perfect rooftop in the warehouse district, There's a champagne wall, live music, drone footage, a horse-drawn carriage. Think Paris, but with better lighting. She paused for dramatic effect. Total cost? Just under $150,000. I nearly choked. I set down my glass. She didn't flinch. "And you," she said, pointing directly at me. "Get to make it happen. Come on, sis. It's not like you're doing anything real with your money." The room went quiet. Even the ceiling fan sounded like it stopped turning. I glanced at Mom, waiting for her to shut it down. Instead, she tilted her head. "Sweetheart, it really would mean a lot to your sister. You've been so blessed lately. Isn't it time to give back a little?" Dad kept chewing. Didn't look up, didn't say a word. That's when it hit me. I wasn't family. I was funding. I tried to swallow my rising anger, but it tasted like betrayal. I excused myself from the table before I said something I'd regret. Again. Back at my place, I sat at the kitchen island with a glass of wine and tried to scrub the night from my memory. My phone buzzed. It was Ina, my operations manager, and only person in my life with a working bullshit radar. Check Seren's Instagram story. I opened it. She'd posted a reel, split screen. On one side, her sipping champagne with her event planner. On the other, a video of my car pulling into my driveway, windows down, paint a little faded. The caption? "When your rich sister lives like she's in witness protection." The comments were already piling up. At least she's not pretending to be someone she's not. That house screams anxiety. LMF, she drives that? I stared at the screen. My jaw clenched so tight, I thought my molars would crack. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell every single commenter exactly what I'd built, what I owned, how I paid for it all with my own 2 hands. But I didn't. I just stared. She thinks this is over a birthday party. She has no idea what she just started. 2 days passed. I didn't return a single call, didn't answer any texts from my family. Ina offered to take my phone and throw it in the Mississippi, and honestly, I was tempted. Instead, I turned off notifications and drowned myself in zoning permits and spreadsheets. My hands worked, but my chest was tight the whole time. The video was still up, still getting likes, still being reshared by people who didn't even know me, people who found it hilarious that I drove a 10-year-old car and didn't flaunt my money like I stole it. "She's not going to stop," Ina said, tapping her fingers on the conference table. "I know," I said, "but she's not the one I'm worried about." She raised an eyebrow, but I didn't explain. I'd seen this coming in pieces, like slow leaks under drywall. But now the wall had cracked, and behind it, the rot was spreading. That afternoon, I was reviewing contracts when I saw a familiar figure through the frosted glass of my office door. My stomach dropped. My mother didn't make appointments. She breezed in like she owned the place, arms full. "I thought I'd stop by," she said, placing a Tupperware of banana bread on my desk. "Still no receptionist? You really ought to make this space more welcoming." I forced a smile. "Hey, Mom." She sat down like she'd been invited. "You're working too hard. You always do, just like your father. Though he was never great with money. You get that from me." I stayed silent. I could feel Ina's eyes on me through the glass, but I didn't call her in. Then Celeste reached into her handbag and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. "I brought something for you to look at," she said lightly, like it was a recipe or a Christmas card. I opened it slowly, expecting nothing. Maybe a thank you note for showing up to dinner. Instead, it was a printout, a budget breakdown. At the top, Seren's 33rd Dream Event. Halfway down, underlined in pink highlighter, venue contribution. Maris Calder, $150,000. Confirmed? My throat went dry. "Confirmed?" I said, my voice sharp before I could stop it. "Who confirmed this?" Celeste's smile didn't budge. "Sweetheart, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. You know Seren doesn't have the kind of money this takes. And your father and I, well, we're on a fixed income now. She's your sister." I set the envelope down like it was laced with something toxic. She humiliated me online. She was being playful. She mocked my life. She's going through a phase. I stared at her. You're really asking me to foot the bill for the person who just used me as punchline fodder for her followers? I'm not asking, she said calmly. I'm showing you the plan. You've always been the responsible one. This is just what's expected. There it was again. That word. Expected, not requested, not discussed, just decided. I picked up the Tupperware, handed it back. Thanks for the bread, I said flatly. She looked wounded, like I'd slapped her. Don't be like this, Maris. You're making it so dramatic. I think you've confused the definition of that word, I said. She stood up, smoothing her blouse like she'd just closed a deal. Let me know if you want me to send over the planner's info. You're going to love her. Very boutique. Then she walked out, leaving the scent of her perfume and that damn envelope behind. I didn't tear it up. I didn't scream. I walked to the window, stared at the street below, and let my jaw lock itself into place. They didn't even ask. They just assumed I'd pay for silence. I stood there longer than I realized, frozen in front of the window, watching nothing. The sun was setting, but I didn't notice until the light was gone. Eventually, I turned off the lights, walked through the quiet house, and landed in the kitchen. The banana bread was still on the counter, wrapped in cellophane like it was some kind of peace offering. I stared at it like it might move or speak. My mother baked that same recipe when I got sick as a child. I used to think it meant love. Now? It felt like a warning label wrapped in sugar. I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and tried to focus on something that wasn't them. Lease renewals, property maintenance notes, payroll, anything. But my hands didn't move. My eyes just stared at the glowing screen until the letters blurred. That's when the memory hit. I was 10. Hospital bed. White sheets, too thin. Machines blinking softly beside me. The beeping was constant. I'd caught some virus that kept me there for over a week, and Mom didn't leave my side. She stayed curled up in that stiff recliner, wrapped in her coat, breathing shallow. You're the reason I'm strong, she whispered one night, stroking my hair. You saved me from myself, Maris. I remember blinking at her, scared and small. The next night, I overheard her on the phone with Dad, furious that he hadn't brought the right insurance forms. We gave up everything for her, she snapped. I quit my job, Martin. You're working night shifts like a damn mule. I don't care what it takes. We're not leaving her in some god-awful facility. And then, after she hung up, she looked at me and smiled again, like none of it happened. We gave up so much for you, sweetheart. Just promise you'll never forget that, okay? I was 10, and I nodded. Back then, I thought it was love, devotion. I had no idea it was a trade agreement. My chest ached as I sat back in the present. My adult self, alone in a quiet kitchen, with a freezer full of frozen dinners, and no one asking how I felt, just what I could give. They never ask, they expect. And if you say no, they remind you what they've done for you. Guilt was always the invoice they sent when I didn't comply. I started remembering all the other times. College tuition meetings where I was expected to understand that Seren's creative path meant she'd bounce between majors while I worked nights. Holidays where my gifts were met with, wow, not bad for someone with no husband. Every sacrifice was supposed to come with a thank you note. Except mine. I opened a draft email I'd started to my mother earlier. Something soft, something diplomatic. I appreciate you coming by. I just wish things were handled more openly. I deleted the whole thing in one stroke. Then I walked to the freezer, opened it, and slid the banana bread inside, right between the frozen peas and an old bottle of vodka. I closed the door without blinking. I'm not your debt to collect, I whispered. I'm not your redemption story. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something solid under my feet. I used to think being needed meant being loved. Now I'm not so sure. The next morning, I was back at my desk downtown, early as usual, before the coffee shop across the street even turned on its lights. I hadn't slept much, but I didn't feel tired. I felt sharp, like my body had decided it was done wasting energy on emotions and was ready to move in straight lines only. My inbox was full of the usual: client inquiries, floral vendor confirmations, inquiries for fall weddings, but none of it really held my attention. Then Ina walked in, holding a manila envelope like it might explode. "Courier dropped this off 10 minutes ago," she said, her tone flat. "From Seren's fiancé's assistant, labeled urgent, but guess whose name it's addressed to?" She dropped it on my desk. It had my full name printed in elegant serif font, just under the embossed words Monroe Events Group. I opened it slowly. Inside was a thick, glossy contract packet, heavy paper, gold-trimmed tabs. Very Seren. It looked like a standard reservation agreement for a venue I'd never heard of. The Imperial Deck House, one of those overpriced rooftop venues downtown. They'd penciled in a family contact section, and there it was. Family Financial Liaison, Maris Calder, signature required. It didn't make sense, until I flipped to page 6 and saw it. Small print, tucked into a subclause under liability adjustments. In the event the primary booking party fails to remit payment in full within 30 business days, the listed family contact assumes responsibility for all unpaid balances, fees, and penalties, including legal and collection costs. I blinked, read it again, and then I laughed, short and dry. "She really thought I wouldn't read this," I said aloud. Ina crossed her arms. "She thought guilt would sign it for you." My fingers curled slightly around the contract, not enough to crumple it, but enough to feel it press back. I didn't speak for a while. I didn't need to. I slid the whole packet into my lower drawer and labeled it in my head. Evidence. "You know," I said, "if she put this much effort into managing her own finances, she wouldn't need a backup wallet with my face on it." Ina raised an eyebrow. "Want me to shred it?" Number let her wonder. I opened my email, composed a new message, and addressed it to Monroe Events Group's assistant. No greeting, no warmth. Subject: contract request. Body: we do not process documents submitted through emotional channels. All future communications must be routed through our legal department. Unsolicited contracts will not be acknowledged. M. Calder. I hit send. Then I opened my calendar, scrolled to next week, and created a new recurring event. Title: Monitor Financial Setups. Family, I stared at the screen for a moment longer, then whispered to myself, "That's the last time they catch me off guard." This wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't betrayal. Not anymore. This was business. And in business, I don't scream. I won't scream. I'll build a wall so high, they'll feel it in their bones. Saturday mornings at Somerset used to be my calm. Quiet walkthroughs, clipboard in hand, checking the linens, lighting, and flower deliveries, like a conductor tuning an orchestra before the guests arrived. But this morning, as I moved through the marble foyer, I felt it. A current in the air. Something was off. Ina trailed behind me with her tablet, double-checking the system updates. She paused near the mirrored hallway and squinted at the screen. "Did you approve the white gardenias for next weekend's VIP?" she asked. "No," I replied. "I haven't touched next weekend's calendar." Her eyebrows pulled together. "Well, someone did. The request is in, along with ice sculptures, imported candles from Provence, and a special sound permit for live music." I walked over, scanned the entry. Client name, SC3 initials, that instantly tightened something in my chest. "She wouldn't," I said, more to myself than her. Ina tilted her head. "She might." We headed straight to the booking records in the back office. I logged in, bypassed the third-party event manager system, and there it was. Somerset Grand Lux package, booked via external agency. Date: Serene's birthday weekend. No phone call, no email, no heads up. She booked my venue like it was a hotel room, like I was a stranger. "She's trying to force your hand," Ina said quietly. "If the party's already moving forward, you'll look petty canceling it." It was smart. Desperate, but smart. I didn't speak. I opened the security camera archive from the evening before, and there she was. Serene. In heels far too high for cobblestone, strutting across my ballroom like it was her stage. Laughing, gesturing, talking animatedly to a wedding planner I didn't recognize. Her hands flailed dramatically as she pointed toward the terrace, spinning in a full circle to show off the vibe. "She's acting like she already owns the damn place," Ina muttered. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms. My eyes didn't leave the screen. "She thinks I won't touch her in public." Ina stayed silent, knowing better than to interrupt that kind of stillness. She thought this was a game of social image, optics, and passive-aggressive elegance. But she was playing in my backyard now, and in my backyard, the rules were different. "Don't cancel anything," I said finally. "Not yet." Ina gave me a long look. "You're letting her go through with it?" "I'm letting her bury herself." I opened a blank folder on my desktop. SC, unauthorized booking, then a subfolder, communications, document everything. "She wants this party to be her crowning moment," I said, eyes narrowing. "Let's make sure she earns every inch of it." Ina smirked. "You want a paper trail?" "I want a mountain." We walked back out to the foyer. Staff were setting up for a bridal brunch, unaware of the war quietly unfolding behind the scenes. This was no longer about candles or contracts. This wasn't about a birthday. This was about who owns the name on the gate. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working from my home office, windows cracked open just enough to let in the scent of gardenia from the front yard. For once, I'd found rhythm again, sorting contracts, editing floor plans, sipping my second coffee in relative silence. Then my phone buzzed. "Ina, you might want to check ballroom camera 3. It's happening." I didn't ask what she meant. I clicked into the live surveillance feed without hesitation. Somerset's ballroom flickered onto my screen, crystal chandeliers gleaming, gold-trimmed sconces casting soft light. And then I saw her. Serene. Storming across the floor in 5-inch stilettos, already mid-rant. "This is the color scheme? Are you serious right now? This looks like a middle school prom." She waved her arms at the decorator, who stood frozen next to a half-finished centerpiece. The florist beside her winced as Seren tore a rose from the arrangement and flung it to the floor. "You call this luxury? This is depressing. My followers are going to drag me for this." A young staffer walked by, arms full of linens. Serene snapped her fingers. Hey, linen girl, that's not the fabric I ordered. I swear, is anyone here literate?" The girl paused, startled. English clearly wasn't her first language. She gave a timid smile and kept walking. Seren rolled her eyes. "Unbelievable. You let amateurs run this place?" And then she did it. She grabbed a clipboard from the table, scanned it, and slammed it down hard enough that it flew off and clattered onto the marble floor. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. I just watched. That's when Ina stepped into frame, calm, spine straight, expression unreadable. "This is a private venue under contract," she said clearly, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Our team deserves to be treated with professional respect." Seren turned slowly, her eyes scanning Ina like she was a bug on a windshield. "Oh, please. Spare me the lecture. Do you even know who I am?" Ina didn't hesitate. "Do you?" For a beat, the room went still. Seren scoffed and turned away, muttering something about ungrateful staff and having my lawyer on speed dial. But I wasn't listening to her anymore. I'd heard all I needed. I leaned back in my chair, watching the final seconds of the footage as Seren stormed out of frame. I clicked rewind and played it again, then again, her voice, her face, her entitlement, all recorded. I minimized the video and opened a folder already waiting on my desktop. Incident response. Inside it was one file. Client Policy Section 3.2. grounds for termination and ban. It was clear as day: hostile behavior toward staff, defamation of venue, willful property disruption. All of it, every checkbox. I clicked and dragged the video into the folder. She thought she was playing a private game of pretend, but she gave me everything I needed, without even realizing it. She gave me everything I needed, without even realizing it. 2 days later, the Somerset ballroom looked like a magazine spread. Fresh orchids lined the marble banisters. Golden chairs flanked ivory linens. The chandeliers sparkled like they knew what was coming. Serene waltzed through the arched entryway like a movie star on set, all hip sway and breathy laughter. Beckham trailed behind her, quietly attentive but distant. His parents, Elowen and Winston Monroe, walked with slow, deliberate steps. You could tell they were the kind of people who measured rooms by how the air moved in them. Seren pointed at the grand staircase. "Isn't this perfect? It screams legacy." From my office upstairs, I watched everything through the security feed. Ina stood near the entrance, greeting them with flawless professionalism. She looked up briefly toward the camera and gave the slightest nod. Time. I adjusted the cuffs of my navy blazer, straightened my spine, and waited. Down below, Seren launched into one of her monologues. "The chandeliers? Imported from Austria, custom designed. The owner works with high-end clients. Very exclusive." Elowen tilted her head. "And who's the owner?" Seren smiled too wide. "We have connections." Winston folded his hands. "So you don't know?" Before she could fumble out another dodge, Ina stepped forward and pressed a button on her tablet. The ambient music cut. Silence blanketed the room, and I began to descend. My heels clicked against the marble steps, steady and sharp. Every eye turned. I paused at the halfway point, met Serene's gaze, and offered the faintest smile. Then I continued down. "Welcome to Somerset," I said, holding out my hand to Elowen. "I'm Maris Calder, the owner and creative director of this estate." Winston blinked. Elowen raised a brow, but her eyes flickered with interest, not offense. Serene. She looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. "You own this place?" she croaked. "But you live in that tiny house." I turned to her, calm and clear. A smart businesswoman doesn't wear her assets on her sleeve. She builds them brick by brick and lets them speak for themselves. Elowen smiled slowly. How refreshing. I was beginning to think nobody under 60 believed in discretion anymore. Winston nodded. "Impressive, Ms. Calder. Very impressive." Beckham looked at me with a different kind of expression now. Not pity, not confusion, recognition. Serene stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, trying to summon something to say. Nothing came. I didn't gloat. I didn't lean in. I simply turned to Ina. "Please escort the Monroes to the East Terrace," I said. "I'll join them shortly." Ina nodded and gestured gracefully toward the corridor. As they moved, Seren lingered behind, her breath shallow, fists clenched. I didn't even look at her when I passed. For the first time in my life, I didn't need them to clap. I had the floor. We moved through the terrace slowly, deliberate and unbothered. The Monroe family admired the grounds with a kind of practiced elegance, nodding thoughtfully, speaking sparingly. Elowen pulled me aside near the fountain, as Seren tried, and failed, to reinsert herself into the conversation. "You built all of this?" Elowen asked. "From the ground up," I said. She took a breath and gave me a look only women with experience know how to give. An assessment and an affirmation all at once. "You're exactly the kind of woman our family respects. Quiet strength. Real results." Seren's voice rang out from behind us. "Wait, Elowen, can we talk?" She sounded small. For the first time since childhood, she sounded like the younger sister she actually was. But Elowen didn't turn around. Winston approached a moment later, placing a firm hand on Beckham's shoulder. "You may want to reconsider your priorities," he said to him plainly. Beckham looked at Seren, then at me. He didn't speak, but his silence said everything. It was a silence that didn't protect her. It exposed her. Seren broke down in the hallway as they walked away. She pressed her back against the mirrored wall and slid to the floor, her makeup smudging, her voice cracking in a half-sob. I didn't stop. I didn't gloat. I walked right past her, head high, heels steady, pulse unreadable. That night, I returned to my home and turned every light off except the kitchen. The silence was different now. It wasn't empty. It was earned. I was sipping tea when my phone buzzed. A single text from my father. "Can we talk?" I hesitated, then hit call. He answered immediately. "Hi, Princess." I didn't reply. "I just think, maybe don't push things further, okay? It's still her birthday week." That was it. That was the thing he needed to say. Not, "I'm proud of you," not, "You handled that with grace." Just, "Don't make waves. It's her week." I laughed quietly into the phone. "I stood there," I said. "I stood right in front of you all, and you still didn't see me." He sighed. "It's not like that." "It is exactly like that," I said. "It always has been." "Look, we just want the family to stay." "Intact?" I cut in. "It's never been intact. It's been built around Seren like a house of cards." He didn't deny it. "I'm not mad," I said, suddenly calm. "I'm just done." He paused. "You don't mean that." "I do." I hung up. Then I slid the phone into the drawer beside my sink and closed it gently. Outside, the lights of New Orleans blinked against the darkness. Distant music floated in from a jazz bar a few streets away, the kind of song that makes you ache and breathe at the same time. I watched it all, not waiting for someone to show up, not hoping someone would call back, just breathing. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped asking them to show up. 2 weeks passed, no headlines, no apology tour, just quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't echo. It settled. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sorting contracts and sipping lukewarm coffee when I noticed the email. Subject line, "I'm sorry." From Martin Calder. I clicked it before I could talk myself out of it. "You were right. I should have stood up. I'm sorry." Dad. That was it. No buts. No passive-aggressive deflection. No, "But you know how your sister is." Just a single sentence. Late, but clean. I read it 5 times. Then I deleted it. But I smiled when I did. Somerset hadn't slowed down. If anything, it was surging. We had 3 weddings booked for the next month, 2 corporate galas, and a high-profile fundraiser that had local news sniffing around. Ina was now fielding requests from planners in 4 different states. She walked into my office with her usual tablet in hand. "We've got a request from Elowen Monroe's niece," she said, tapping. "She asked for you directly." "Of course she did," I said. "We'll take good care of her." I meant it. That same day, my phone lit up with a push notification from a wedding industry blog. Influencer event canceled. Somerset denies involvement. Speculation mounts. And then, "Are these luxury events just for show?" Inside the collapse of a brand. They didn't mention her name outright, but I didn't need them to. Later that evening, out of pure curiosity, I checked Serene's socials. Her latest video was still up, but the energy was different. Muted lighting, no makeup, no background music. Comments turned off. She stared into the camera for almost 2 full minutes before speaking. I didn't watch all of it. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. There was no satisfaction, no anger, no fire in my chest. Just air. I closed the app, put my phone face down, and walked outside with a glass of wine. The porch was warm, washed in the orange glow of the setting sun. The street was quiet, except for the rustle of wind through the live oaks. I drove past my parents' house that morning, slowed down for half a second, didn't stop. Not because I was bitter, because I didn't feel the pull anymore. I used to think peace came when people apologized, when the scales finally tipped back in your favor, when the villains got exposed and the family admitted they were wrong. But peace is quieter than that. Peace is walking away when no one asks you to. Peace is deleting the message without replying. Peace is saying no and not explaining why. I took a sip of wine. The night wrapped around me like a soft exhale. And maybe that's the real revenge. Not winning, but walking away clean. You know, if there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that peace doesn't come when people finally treat you right. It comes when you start treating yourself like you matter. For years, I thought loyalty meant silence. That being a good daughter, a good sister, meant making myself smaller just so others could shine. But the truth is, shrinking never saved anyone. You can love your family and still draw a line. You can walk away without hating them. And you can stop chasing validation from people who never bothered to look at you clearly. I didn't win by being louder. I won by finally listening to myself. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own story? Have you ever carried guilt that was never yours to begin with? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And hey, if this story hit home for you, type 1, or let me know where you're watching from. If you didn't connect with it, that's okay too. Drop a comment and tell me why. Was it the message, the pace, the ending? This channel is all about real stories for real people. So if you want more honest, emotional storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe. You never know. The next story might be the one that finally puts your feelings into words. Thanks for spending your time here. See you in the next one.